This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to a wonderful Friday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. So pumped to be here on a Friday. Michael Remis in the host chair for Hustler. He's in Costa Rica giving out winners from the pool. We're looking forward to having him back next week. Connor Hrabchak will join me shortly. What a game last night for the Winnipeg Jets. So much conversation here going back to the last meeting between the Jets and the Bruins when Trent Frederick KO'd David Gustafsson. Would there be revenge tonight? Would there be retribution? A big word in hockey. There certainly was. Not with fists, though, on the score sheet. The Winnipeg Jets putting a 6-2, beatdown on the Boston Bruins. Mark Scheifele scoring 2 goals, 2 more goals in front of Don Sweeney, the GM of Team Canada, who did not select Mark Scheifele for the Four Nations. So the Winnipeg Jets really sticking it to the Bruins, who got booed off the ice. Brad Marchand, doing the walk of shame with a 10-minute misconduct in the third period. And look, the Jets got out to a 2-0 lead. Nemestikov on the power play, looking good. The Jets power play again, 2 for 4, number 1 power play. But it was Boston who battled back, and it was a shorthanded goal by Elias Lindholm. But right after that, Mark Scheifele, on the power play, great pass from Ehlers, and it was Nikolai Ehlers blocking a Mason Lohrei breakout attempt up the middle into their own net, and that was it for the Jets. And it was a storybook kind of game for Parker Ford, playing in his first career NHL game from Rhode Island, went to Providence College, playing against the team that he grew up watching, scoring his first career goal. Amazing to see his family in attendance, family and friends celebrating that one. So just all around a great night for the first place Winnipeg Jets, who are practicing today in preparation for a game against the first place in the East, the Washington Capitals. So we are looking forward to that. Great show coming up today. We've got to thank the sponsors: Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Fans First, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Winnipeg Jets, and Cool Bet. And we'll be joined upcoming by guests: Jacob Stoller of Sportsnet.ca, Marat Atesh of The Athletic, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton with his NFL Notebook, and Joey Slattery, local sports journalist, on the Duckworth Challenge. It is the 33rd Duckworth Challenge tonight at the IGAC, U of W versus U of M in men's and women's ball. But first, let's bring in everyone for the big 3-way dance. It's Connor Hrabchak and special guest today from Costa Rica. They have internet there. Hustler. What's going on, gentlemen? How are you guys doing?
Fellas, what is up? Greetings from the land of Pura Vida.
Huss, how is it over
riding high. He's riding high with the your all your parlays are hitting. The weather's warm. Jets are winning. What's Chiefs are in the Super Bowl? What else could go right?
It's been a great week. It has definitely been a great week. It started off, yes, with the Chiefs win. I know, Remis, I caught up with you from the airport on Toronto and chatted about that. And listen, our Jets just keep flying high. And I have discovered a magic pool here in Costa Rica where you dip in, you make some picks, and every single one hits. This is a heater unlike any. What was it, 6-1 for the WST parlay over at Coolbet on Tuesday, and then yesterday we hit an 8-1 an Ehlers goal, a Connor goal, and Jets to win. And having, obviously, I wasn't able to watch the game live here. I did see the very strange Ehlers goal that got us going. And then KFC coming through with the empty netter to cash it. And then we also did the pool party parlay, which was Minnesota, Ottawa, and Calgary, which came in as well. So I don't know if I could just parlay some of that luck with the picks into this main event of the Costa Rica Poker Open, it would be even more lucrative. But I got to tell you guys, I mean, even not being able to follow the game and just sort of following the great clips that you guys are putting out and Dave over at IC, man, this team is just flying high. And I mean, I know we're going to get to this, but we don't want to bury the lead. Storybook beginning to an NHL career for Parker Ford last night. Grew up just down the road in Providence, Rhode Island. Played at Providence in college hockey. Didn't get drafted. Got an opportunity from the organization to come here and play for the Moose. Acquitted himself really well last year in training camp and was the last cut. And then Morgan Barron goes down. He gets the call, comes in, friends and family pack in the stands to watch him get his first game in the NHL. The Jets pump the Bruins and he scores. I mean, you cannot write it up any better than that. And Reem, it just feels like, I mean, the vibes of this team continue to get better and better and better. And how about this for a treat tomorrow night? The top two teams in the National Hockey League playing for number one overall. The Jets was 73 points. The Capitals was 73 points. Hockey Night in Canada game on the road. What a weekend we've got coming up, starting with that game tomorrow. But love to see a performance like we got last night from the Jets coming off the win in Montreal. And even without Captain Adam Lowry, you just got to be impressed with the depth of this team and the organization with a guy like Parker Ford coming in and contributing the way he did last night.
Yeah, one thing you love, the Winnipeg Jets, they talk about how they're a family, they have a great culture, and you really saw that last night. Just how pumped everyone was when he scored. David Gustafsson couldn't get there fast enough. I posted a picture on Instagram. The guys on the bench jumping up and down. Nikolai Ehlers has a huge smile in the picture, and guys are coming in. We're wondering who's going to step up. With Adam Lowry's absence, the last couple of games, Gustafsson and Kupari, I think, have increased their level of play, and Morgan Barron goes out, and Parker Ford. Again, this is, I think Mike McIntyre tweeted out, like, this is why sports are, they're like reality TV. Guy calls up, we're posting the picture of him in the Bruins gear. His whole family and friends are there. It was absolutely incredible to watch, and you got to almost get emotional as a guy, undrafted, going through this journey, get your first NHL game and you score in it, against your hometown team. Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Jets, they're in first place. Like, are we in the position where we can scoreboard watch for the President's Trophy for first place? Edmonton losing an OT yesterday. Vegas losing an OT. They do have a bit of a cushion here in terms of points percentage, and this sets up a huge matchup. Could be, Stanley Cup final. It's getting ahead of ourselves, but they are the two first place teams right now in points percentage and points, the Washington Capitals and Winnipeg Jets. And, we haven't even mentioned the former Winnipeg Jet on Washington, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and that would be a topic so long. There's so many other, great stories surrounding the Winnipeg Jets, the power play on fire again, everyone on the team having career years. You got a Hart, Vezina Trophy candidate, Jack Adams, Rocco Richard. It's incredible.
Well, listen, PLD is old news. I mean, he's just some other guy that used to play. I mean, that we won't be talking about that, although we'll pay attention. It'll be interesting to see if he really gets up for this game against the Jets as a Cap, as opposed to, last year where it was a huge story. There's no one in Winnipeg that's upset about the return that the Winnipeg Jets got for that. But Connor, as Remo just mentioned, I mean, one of the other things, I know you tweeted about this last night and Remo just referenced it. I mean, Scheifele and the Jets sticking it to Don Sweeney in the fashion that he did twice, is just absolutely phenomenal. Listen, if he doesn't get the opportunity to play in the Four Nations Cup, if there's no injuries or whatever. It is what it is. He's proving himself every single day that was wrong. But I mean, right now you pull up the goal scoring leaders for the National Hockey League, and the Jets don't have one. They've got two players in the top three, both Scheifele and Connor, now over 30 after last night, and really pretty much hot on the tail of Leon Draisaitl right now. This has been a magical season right now, but there's so many different angles. But I got to tell you, just from a straight goal scoring, and I do laugh because let's face it, how long were we hearing people talk about, yeah, there's no way this team can win if Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor are playing together? I think those theories have been debunked quite well right now. But man, 2 and 3 in the league speaks for itself, and the wins have been coming along with it.
Yeah, and it's wild to look at the goal leaderboard because you see Mark Scheifele in second. Canada's going to be leaving their leading scorer at home. Like Mark Scheifele is going to be, number 2 in the league. Canada's number 1 scorer in the NHL this year is going to be kicking his feet up watching the games like the rest of us. It's crazy to think about. He was a snub when the team was announced, and they've stuck it to Don Sweeney twice in the time that the team has been announced. They played the Bruins twice. They beat him 8-1. They beat him 6-2. Scheifele had great games in both. And yeah, he absolutely got snubbed. And I mean, I got some mentions last night too. It's not a terrible thing that the top line center for the top team in the league right now is going to get a 2-week break, even though he definitely deserves to be there, right? So yeah, Mark Scheifele's been incredible. Kyle Connor's been great. Nikolai Ehlers chipping in last night too, and one of the weirdest goals you've ever seen. And then Mark Scheifele with his second goal. And I don't know, down the stretch there, the Bruins pulled the goalie. There was an empty net, but Mark Scheifele tied Ilya Kovalchuk for the franchise lead in goals last night with 328. He's still chasing this guy for the real Winnipeg Jets lead in goals. But for the franchise, Jets and Thrashers, he's tied with Ilya Kovalchuk, 328. So his next one will be a big one. He said after the game that it's an honor to be tied, and obviously he's going for the lead. But yeah, just an incredible night last night from the Jets' top players. And we haven't even mentioned Connor Hrabchak, who's winning the Vezina this year or leading it, and should be in hard conversations, and had another great game last night. For the Winnipeg Jets. It really stamped a productive January where players got healthy. Ehlers and Sandberg came back, and they're on this 5-game winning streak since Scott Arniel said that their performance was embarrassing last Monday, and they've done it all without their captain, Adam Lowry. It's really impressive and really fun to watch, and sets up this great game Saturday night.
You talk about Connor Hrabchak. It's funny. He's just consistent. You almost take it for granted. I put out the poll, the most impressive part of the win, Scheifele's 2 goals, the dominant third period where you thought, oh, we have a game here. And then like that, the Jets went bang, bang. Mark Scheifele scores on the power play. Nikolai Ehlers scores. I know Parker Ford's debut. That's the leading one for the most impressive part. But Hrabchak stopping 26 of 20. You almost expect it at this point. Leading the league, goals against, save percentage, shutouts, wins. I'm waiting for him to get another shutout so we can finally say he's got more shutouts than losses here. But he's so consistent. It's been incredible. And again, just one of the many Jets at the end of the season who could be hoisting some hardware. I didn't even mention the Jim Gregory GM award as well, because we'll see what Kevin Cheveliev does here coming up at the deadline. We're all focused until March 7. But I mean, what a spot that they're in. And I think maybe some people who were on the fence, still got a bad taste in their mouth from last playoffs. I think that's kind of going away here when you see them rack up yet another 5-game win streak here.
I know we're going to be talking a lot about the deadline as we get closer to that huge first week in March, which is our 1000th show, our 4th anniversary, and our extended annual trade deadline day show on Friday, March 7th. But and listen, I still think that they are going to be aggressive and they're going to target a couple places that they would like to improve. To me, the more I see the way this team is playing right now without Adam Lowry, knowing that he's going to be coming back, I mean, to me, my biggest priority is the blue line, to be honest. I mean, would you like to have another center? Absolutely. But, I mean, great teams in the playoffs have guys that step up. I know you guys have been talking this week about the play of David Gustafsson, who, the Gus bus had sort of been parked in neutral, waiting to get an opportunity to shift it into gear. And he's been playing so well. Kapari has shown that, while he's not a dynamic offensive player, he's so fast. He's a great penalty killer. I mean, it'd be tough to take some of these guys out of the lineup right now and the depth of this team, which always gets tested in a massive way if you're going to run the gauntlet of the Stanley Cup playoffs and win 4 series over the course of 2 months. Everyone seems to be, raising their level of play. And I'm not sure how desperate the needs are that we maybe thought they were a month or two right now because of the way things are looking right now. Just quickly to Hrabchak. Just pulled this up. 32 wins, 7 losses, 2 overtime losses. He's got 6 shutouts. And guys, he's got a 2.00 ERA, or a goals against average, I should say. I mean, we were basically talking about a shutout or a 1-goal game from getting that thing to sub 2, and he's flirting with a .930 save percentage. When we talk about things like, well, not necessarily the Vezina. I mean, I think the Vezina is pretty much a lock at this point. But the Hart Trophy, it's funny in that, you could actually look at normal times going, well, look, he's got all these wins and he's doing so well. But I mean, look at their team. Look how good they are. They've got 2 of the top 3 goal scorers in the NHL. But then you go back and you actually look at the numbers and the gap between Connor Hrabchak and just about everybody else in the league. And I've been maintaining all year long that the path for Hrabchak to win the Hart Trophy is going to be leading the league, preferably with a bit of a gap in every single statistical category of net minding. And right now, he's doing it in wins. He's doing it in shutouts. He's doing it in goals against. He's doing it in save percentage, and he continues to do it in minutes right now. And as I said, I think he clearly is the MVP, certainly of the Winnipeg Jets. But he does have competition within this Winnipeg team from both Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. And there's players like Josh Morrissey, whose brilliant seasons almost getting overshadowed right now because of these guys making headlines every single time this team plays. It is good problems to have. And these conversations, Jet fans have been waiting for this for a long time. And don't take it for granted, everybody, as we get into this battle for first place overall in the league tomorrow.
Yeah, and we said it yesterday, Remis, that if you want to look at a team that thought they had consistency of goaltending, or at least for my life, the Boston Bruins have always had elite goaltending, just paid Jeremy Swayman. They thought they had the goaltender position figured out, like a lot of teams in the NHL think that they do. But the truth is that they don't. They really don't have the goaltender position figured out. It was Jonas Korpisalo last night who was the backup. Boston played brutal. I mean, how many times did they turn the puck over? Their defensive structure, they didn't look like the Boston Bruins, but their goaltending has been subpar this season. And that's a team that's had consistent goaltending for the last decade. So to have this consistent level of elite, best goaltender in the league play night in and night out is incredible. And it's the biggest reason why the Winnipeg Jets are where they are in the standings and why they've been the best team in the NHL this season. 4th, I believe they finished last season in NHL standings. Like, Connor Hrabchak brings a baseline of elite goaltending every single night that you just don't see across the NHL. While save percentages are down and goals are up, Connor Hrabchak's numbers continue to get better. And it's remarkable what he's doing.
Hey, Reem, do you think, like, while we're just talking about that, all the great things that have happened with this year and Hrabchak with the Vezina, and obviously you got 2 guys. Do you think Scott Arniel ends up as a finalist for the Jack Adams?
I'm trying to think who it would be. I think Carberry with the Washington is probably
Carberry and Evason are locks to be to me. I mean, Evason with what he's done, considering what Columbus was going through, I don't think there's any doubt that those would be the top 2 guys. I guess the reason why I ask, I think we can all make a great argument why Arniel should be there. I have a feeling that his candidacy for the Jack Adams, despite the fact that all these same people were saying this team wasn't even going to make the playoffs at the start of the year, is actually going to be diminished, or it's going to make it a lot harder because of the play of Hrabchak, because of Scheifele, because of Connor, because of all these incredible seasons the players are having. I'm not sure the coach is going to get enough credit. And to be honest, we can't really talk about Scott Arniel without talking about the new additions to the staff, Davis Payne in particular, because I think we'd all agree the nuclear power play of the Winnipeg Jets is the one thing that is night and day from last year, which is taking a team that was already really good. Remis, do you remember when we had Bones on and Bones said to us, if our power play could have even been league average last year, he thought that they would have won the President's Trophy. Well, they're way more than league average right now. It is a difference maker every single time these guys go out and get opportunities to play. They're flirting with historical success right now on the power play. And certainly coaching is a big part of that. Old Scott Arniel would be the first one to tell you that Davis Payne's been handling that from the start of the year. So I'm not sure that Arnie actually even gets to be a finalist for the award. I'm sure he'll be just fine with that. We know what happens to guys that win the Jack Adams. They often don't end up winning it later on. But it just speaks to the contributions top to bottom in this lineup, the depth of the team. The general manager gets a lot of credit on that. But again, if we're talking about team success, no team's having more success right now than the two teams, the Jets and the Capitals, that we're going to see tomorrow. And I'm not sure Scott Arniel's going to get enough love that he and his staff probably deserves, but I think they'll be quite fine with that, considering where the team is right now in the standings heading into this big one tomorrow night.
Power play tops in the league, 33.1%, historic number. And you look at where you thought they would be before the season. Everyone on the Jets having a career year. Gabriel Velarde healthy. Actually, it's funny. You go back to the beginning of the year. I posted this video of Ken rattling off, I think Kyle Connor could score 50, Mark Scheifele 40, Gabriel Velarde. And you're like, yeah, Ken. Like, that's really funny. You're really tooting the Jets' horn here. But seemingly every single person, having a career. Nikolai Ehlers, point per game player. Josh Morrissey up there. Neil Pionk, points. Connor Hrabchak doing what he does. So everyone having success. You see them enjoying themselves on the ice. Unlike another team out west that has struggled this year. So you can see that these guys have been together for a while. They've learned from the playoff failures. They've got the good coaching. They're really, really well positioned here now to make a deep run. And it's certainly a very exciting time as we tee up this big game Saturday between two first-place teams. And you go to the Jack Adams. They usually give it to the team that was, had the biggest point increase. And, the Jets' problem is they're just too good last year, and Washington, scraped into the playoffs with a negative goal differential, and now they're first in the league. And the Jets are, still about where they were last year, but it's going to be up to them now to maintain that level through the rest of the season so they can lock up this Central Division title and raise the banner that they should have had in 2019. And they're in a great spot right now, 9 points ahead of the Minnesota Wild, who won last night, and 10 ahead of Dallas. That's something we're on. Last year it was like Jennings watch. Once we fell out of the division watch, this year let's try to do a division President's Trophy watch until game 82.
Well, you know what? There's two watches, and I'll be honest, I don't care about the President's Trophy, and I know there's all those stats. The team that wins the President's Trophy doesn't win the cup. So if the Jets finish second overall, no problem as long as they win the West. To me, winning the West. You have this opportunity right now to do it, and to be the number one team, to have Canada Life Center be the place that the playoffs will go through in the West. Anytime if a series goes to Game 7, the game's going to be at home, and maybe most importantly, considering the lack of success the team's had the last couple times, I think to get that 8th seed, which right now looks to be the Calgary Flames, would be very advantageous for Winnipeg as opposed to going up against, one of the other teams in the Central that is going to be a tough matchup no matter who finishes fourth. So to me, watching what happens in the Western Conference, that's the race that I think is most important and will be most impactful once we get to playoff time. But here's another thing to watch for right now, Reem, that we can start going on. We were just talking about how great the Jets' power play is. Do you know what the best power play in NHL history is? Success rate?
I think we've talked about this on the show this week. Yeah, Connor's on it. He's brought the numbers this week.
32.4 for the Edmonton Oilers, 22-23. And before that, the only other teams that have ever been above 30% in NHL history were Islanders or Habs teams in the 70s. Yep. The Oilers in 2019-20 were 29.5. The Jets right now are at 33.1. So they've got 0.7 percentage points ahead of the Oilers right now to potentially have the best power play ever. How are we having this conversation, guys? Like, I'm just thinking out loud right now, considering what happened last year with the same personnel. It really is incredible. And listen, we're seeing it night in and night out what this team is doing, and everyone is contributing. Hey, one other thing, Reem, and I know you guys will probably get into this a little bit later on, but you tweeted this out. Pretty significant news today in the National Hockey League with the agreements on where the cap is, and we've got some security, or basically some, shall we say, clarity on what the cap is going to be. Next year, the upper limit is $95.5 million. 26-27, 104. And 27-28, 113.5. The lower limit in 27-28 is going to be 83.9. And I bring this up, not that, I mean, certainly it'll give you the opportunity. You'll have the space, potentially, sign more of your players to keep around. But Frank Saravelli has put this, and I think Winnipeg, probably Ottawa at the top of this list. The real concern for some Canadian teams moving forward, $113.5 million U.S. salary cap in 27-28 equates to a $163.2 million spending in Canadian dollars based on today's rate. How will those teams find a way to significantly generate new revenue to match the increase? And I don't want to be a buzzkill. That's a conversation for a later day. But when you consider the challenges that the Jets have had over these last few years coming out of the pandemic, the size of the rink, the cost and the ability of this city and this fan base to fill it and support the team that, as we just said, is the best team in the National Hockey League, there is going to be some incredible challenges for the organization moving forward. If they want to be a top team and they want to stay competitive, it is going to take everything, I think, for Winnipeg to go very well, or preferably the Canadian dollar actually to maybe get back to a legitimate spot, which would maybe be the biggest thing overall. But it will not be easy for the Winnipeg Jets to be a cap team, if you will, which they pretty much have been for the last number of years when we get into that. And, that'll be sort of more of a sports business side conversation, but I think it's very important to know, but at least they have clarity as to where this is going to be. And I'm happy we'll just be able to talk about the push to the playoffs and fill in the building, and hopefully the team can have a bunch of playoff gates for multiple rounds and make some money that way. But this team, this market, and this team of 32 in the National Hockey League probably has the biggest challenges of any in the National Hockey League when we talk about where the salary cap is going in the next 3 years in the NHL.
Yeah, well, we'll have a number of conversations on this down the road. I think more importantly, how does this affect free agency? How is this going to affect conversations around the game? But yeah, how is it going to affect the Winnipeg Jets? Sports teams right now generate revenues from a number of different ways. And the reason why the cap is going up is because teams have made revenue. So they're going to be still sharing the same portion, with players. They do have revenue sharing. Is the dollar going to be at what it is now in 4 years? I mean, I have no idea. I will say the Jets, in terms of hockey revenue, yeah, they're capped in terms of ticket sales. The number of seats that they have, it's the lowest capacity building in the league. I don't want to jump to any conclusions right now. It's early, and the Jets have been a cap team, for years. Will they be a cap team when it's at $113.5 million in 27-28? I'm not sure, but certainly interesting, and we're going to have a number of conversations about this going forward and how it affects the Jets. So I think it's, very early. I've been getting prepared for the show, talking about last night's game, but your ears definitely perk up when you see Frank tweet something like, "Yeah, that's actually $160 million in Canadian dollars." So
I'll be honest. I didn't even need to see the Saravelli tweet afterwards. When I first saw what that number was and how much it's going up over these next 3 seasons, we've been doing this long enough and talking about the team and the economics of the league and how we got a team back and where the team is and the challenges and at times struggles over the last few seasons. Filling the smallest building in the National Hockey League. This is listen, if there was ever an impetus, I think, for people to make a point of getting back to where they were in 2011, saying, I want NHL hockey in this city. I want the Jets back. I will support it. There's a lot of people that said that and did that for a number of years and aren't there anymore. It is imperative to get those people back to fill that building on a regular basis, because with where this league is going, it's the Winnipeg Jets are going to need to be in a better situation right now, frankly, where it comes to attendance night after night after night. And on top of that, I think you're going to have to, work diligently to find some other ways to, create revenue, whether it's within this market or outside of it, because those are some staggering numbers. I mean, by the time you get to that 27-28 season, and as I said, it's a far cry from where it is right now. Huge increases, and I think right now it's pretty stressful to the organization to be where they're at with what those numbers are. So, but I'll tell you one thing: having a first place team that continues to kick ass the way they are is a great start to get to that. And I know there's lots of work ahead for everyone there at True North on all of this.
Yeah, that's certainly a story we'll be getting to follow. This season and beyond. As who doesn't love CBA talk, Hustler? We know the new Canadian TV deal coming up. That's accounted for. So, we got to get to Jacob Stoller of Sports. We're going to talk more about the salary cap and Murat as well. So, thank you for hopping on here from Costa Rica. Awesome.
No problem. I will say this. I know there's people that are saying, "Well, are you getting in the pool? Are you making more picks today?" It's a slow day in the NHL. I know Mike will hit the cool bet lines a little later on. We are going to do just a little 2-gamer fun from the lock shop. That'll be in the combo cards. I think we're going to go Columbus and Buffalo tonight. That'll be up around 5-1. But tomorrow we will do, I owe it to the people after 6 and 8-1ers this week to do another WST parlay for the Caps game. And we'll do maybe a Pura Vida parlay for one more time in Costa Rica. And then I'll be traveling on Monday, but back in the saddle with the gang on Tuesday. And if things go well this afternoon, I might even try and jump in on the marble race with the rest of the crew as a viewer today. Guys, thanks for having me. Thanks for holding it down all week. Great stuff. I've been checking in. Remo, great job hosting. Connor, as always, great to have you on the program. I'll look forward to WST Sunday Live. Don't forget that, everybody. 9 a.m. on Sunday Live. Had a fun time jumping on with Connor and Liz last week. And other than that, been firing some stuff up on at Hustlerama, the Cool Bet socials as well, and then back on Tuesday. But in the meantime, have a great rest of the show, and looking forward to this battle for first overall in the NHL tomorrow as the Jets road trip continues to DC.
There he is, Hustler, Andrew Hustler Paterson, live from Costa Rica, not in the pool there, but picking winners. Connor, I don't think we gave Cuss enough credit at the end of the show. I was embarrassed for some of my takes, doubting him, but that pool gives prognostic powers, that's for sure.
Yeah, we faded him at our own risk, and we lost. We lost out, or maybe you didn't fade him. Maybe you joined in.
Well, you have to do it. He's in the pool. You have to. You don't fade pool picks. Yeah, you don't fade. You don't ask questions. You just put whatever money you're comfortable with losing. You're able to
losing,
to bet that. So, anyways, here let's hear one from Scott Arneal after the game, and then I'll shortly be joined by Jacob Stoller of Sportsnet.ca. Here's Coach Scott Arneal on the Jets' go-ahead goal from Mark Scheifele, and talks about the start of their game, and then into Parker Ford's debut.
Bang bang play, but at the end of the day, that's what you love about your top players, when they take respond like they did, and the challenge of going back and trying to score on that. We still had some time left, and great play, great inside move, and then obviously Shape burying it.
Yeah, you talked about having a better start. What did you think?
I loved our first period. That was way better than Montreal, and we knew that Boston was going to be a little ornery, after what happened the other night in Buffalo, and they came out. But I liked the way we played. We didn't let them get into a rush game. We did a good job of kind of hemming them in their end. We scored early, which was big, and when you do that on the road, it gets the opposition on their heels.
Stood out to you about Parker Ford's debut?
Yeah, that was fun. Great to see for a kid, hometown kid, to come in and get a chance to do that in this building. I know him and his family will remember that for the rest of their life. But he contributed. He was good in a lot of areas. To score the goal was a bonus. But I like the blocking shots. He did a good job in his end on the walls, getting pucks out. Being responsible, and that's what you hope when some of these young guys come up, that it isn't overwhelming. And I thought he did a great job of looking comfortable and doing what he needed to do.
There's head coach Scott Arniel, and shout out to Winnipeg Jets for that video, and Ken Wiebe and the Winnipeg Free Press for sending him on the road. Ken doing some great work yesterday on Parker Ford, interviewing him before and after the game. Let's hear from Parker Ford, the man from Rhode Island, scored in his first career NHL game, his first career NHL goal, on his first career NHL shot. Here he is on what he's going to do with the puck after that one.
Right to the fam, for sure. I threw him a couple pucks in warm-ups, but hopefully that one will mean a little bit more.
What was it like when you saw the puck go in and the red light go on?
Couldn't really tell you, to be honest. I just blacked out a little bit, but it's great.
How would you describe the emotion of today and what it means to you and what your journey has been to bring you to this point?
Yeah, I think I was just really focusing on playing my game tonight and helping the team win. Now I can go see the fam and celebrate a little bit, but just focusing on playing my game.
Who did you have here with you, and when did you find out, get to tell them, get to have that conversation that they're going to come to the game today? Yeah,
I probably had a handful of people, 10 to 20 maybe, and I told all of them last night that I got called up, and it was 50-50 if I was going to play or not, and told them I'd keep them posted in the morning, and we all got tickets already, so if I was playing or not, they were coming, so kind of worked out that I did play.
Any other PC guys that you played with down there get a chance to come? Yeah,
there's actually a couple. Most of my buddies are still playing other cities, but a couple guys were around, so they were able to come.
Parker Ford with the hockey smile. What a moment it was last night. We're going to be joined by Jacob Stoller of Sportsnet.ca. But first, here's Huss.
Do you want to thank the great people over at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk? Keep an eye out on the roads. The new Rolly's WST truck is out helping Winnipeggers move to their next destination. Hey, Rolly's is family owned and operated and has become the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba over the last 60 years in business. If you've got a move coming up in 2025, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's and get a great deal for being a WST listener. Head on over to their website, click on request an estimate in the top right corner, and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and let them know when you're moving, where you got to go, and what needs to come with you. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in to make that next move for you and your family in 2025. Moving this year, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rolly's.com. A nice break in the weather today. It's actually gorgeous outside. It was brutal the last few days, and bad news, we're going to get right back to it, which means this is your chance to make sure that you're not on the side of the road calling one of your buddies for a boost or CAA. Make sure that you're ready for what's to come in the next few months in the teeth of Winnipeg winter. And that would be going down to Manitoba Battery, making sure your battery is great. You can get free testing at either Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive. And if you need a new battery for your car or your truck, shop local, get the best prices in town, and heck, the best service as well. Manitoba Battery will deliver your batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. So give them a call or shop online today at manitobabattery.com and don't get left out in the cold. And hey, our friends at F Apparel are also ready for the new year. If it's new year, new you, new wardrobe, and you need to step up your menswear game, head on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in the city as well. Of course, fellas, if you're getting married this summer, you know they're already working on big wedding plans, and heck, they've got a great deal for a discount for the wedding party when you and the fellas get your suits for the big day. Get on that as well. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also find more information or book a fitting online at their website at EPHapparel.com.
There's us doing a great job. We'll be back next week. I'm super pumped to be joined right now by Jacob Stoller, writing for Sportsnet.ca. He's also appearing here on this channel, Winnipeg Sports Talk, on YouTube and podcast, WST Sunday Live with Connor, who was with me earlier, and Liz Hood. We talk about the salary cap. We mentioned it going up. Can we talk about Jacob about that? The Jets win. And, hey, if wondering if the top line is hockey, is it right here in Winnipeg? Here's Jacob. Jacob, how's it going? How's the first season at Sportsnet.ca?
It's great, man. Living the dream. I don't have the beautiful looks or the dress attire of Mr. Sean Reynolds, but trying to be a fourth line grinder for Sportsnet. It's awesome. Like, we've got a great team there, and of all years to kind of hop on the beat, this seems to be the one.
Yeah, I'm enjoying reading your columns, enjoying seeing you on WST Sunday Live here with Connor and Liz Sundays at 9 a.m. I'm sure you'll have a lot to talk about this Sunday. But first, let's look back on last night's game. I've been saying on the show, Jacob, that I thought we were going to see some type of revenge game. But, sweet revenge for the Jets over Boston, winning 6-2. Brad Marchand does the walk of shame back to the dressing room. Just another incredible performance last night. We can't say enough good things about this team this year.
Yeah, I always find it really funny when you watch Scott Arniel answer questions about Hrabchak from us local guys, but also on the road. It's like, what left can you say, really? He's been a Hart candidate, in my opinion, the Hart front runner, and that's what's driving this team. But to me, I think it's pretty crazy to see how prolific Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have been. I myself, I'll wear this. It's what I said. I was very much in favor of, splitting up the top line. I thought that there was better ways that they could deploy their lineups, but the Jets, to their credit, stuck to their guns, and it's working. It's probably the most dynamic duo in the league right now statistically, but that trio certainly is the most dynamic in the league, and you're seeing it. And as much as this team is like the heartbeat and the driver is Connor Hrabchak, seeing that first line produce an elite level helps them be more than just a team that can win 2-1, and not to mention the power play. It's really incredible what's happened.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats, and the Jets are on top of just about every category in terms of team. Ridiculous. And then you have individual performances, goal scoring, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele up there, and Mark Scheifele 2, Kyle Connor 3, 31 and 30. So are you saying we can officially anoint that line as the top line in hockey? No more Kucherov, Point Gensel, no more Marner, Matthews, whoever's riding shotgun with them, McKinnon. There's no more Rantanen there. Can we anoint them now? Top line in hockey. Connor Scheifele, Velarde.
You're trying to burn me here. I would say they're probably right now the deadliest. When you are the bread and butter of the league's best power play, you're producing it the way you are, at 5-on-5, at least the last, aside from the first 10 games. I know that's maybe cheating, but I think that you have to give nuance. They were struggling to start the year a bit, but they turn it around. Since about, I would say, November, they're the best line for me, the first line in the league right now. I looked at, there's no one that's, more, that's producing more than they are. I know the underlying numbers maybe aren't the kindest to them, but they are creating quality chances. And the thing that's the most encouraging for me is a lot of times the big criticism with Scheifele and Connor was that, their games weren't as well-rounded and, they were defensive liabilities. We've seen Kyle Connor, really revamp his defensive game. Mark Scheifele even too has been better all around. But the way that line with Velarde there as well produces off the cycle down low, like that's how you score goals in the playoffs, right? So it's not a matter of this unsustainable kind of cute empty calorie production. This is something that could help with the Jets in the playoffs and make them a dangerous team. My concern's more with the second line, and maybe this is bad timing because they did play pretty well last night, but I don't know, Remo. I'm not buying it. I don't think the Jets are either. Like, I think that they would ideally want to make an acquisition. I've written that I think that they have some pieces there with Adam Lowry that you can make it more of a middle six, but I think in a perfect world, you get a 2C addition, Paul Stastny, Sean Monahan, Kevin Hayes-esque sort of addition. The Islanders are on a heater, so who knows if Brock Nelson's going to be available. Because I think that what's happening is you need to have either in your top six, and the Jets want to give Perfetti the best chance to. I don't love the way those two played one another, but maybe if there's an upgrade on Vlad, it would change my mind. But I don't know. If you ask me today, especially with what's out there, I'm still kind of in the camp of running a more balanced middle six. Like I thought Lowry, Iafallo, and Ehlers were electric together.
Yeah, it's certainly something we'll be watching as the games go on, and that second line was pretty good, but they haven't had that many electric-type games. Vlad all over the ice, scoring twice last night. One guy who also scored, in addition to Mark Scheifele and Vlad, it was Parker Ford. First career game, first career goal. Again, born in Rhode Island against his hometown team. Grew up watching the Bruins. We showed the picture here yesterday. I mean, you've seen him with the Moose. What have you seen from him so far? And I mean, what's his future in the NHL?
Yeah, it's funny because with Parker Ford, it's crazy how much like a year can make a difference. And nothing against him, but like last year, this was a guy that came virtually out of nowhere, almost made the team as a 13th forward, and then we kind of didn't really hear about him. At training camp this year, he was like, you notice some of the things he does well, like the compete and the forechecking, but at training camp, it didn't come all together for him. He didn't have the same pop or the same success. So he kind of faded away. But I talked with some people, inside the organization, outside the organization, and like Parker Ford is beloved on that Moose team just as a competitor. I tweeted this stat out, but like there's something like when Parker Ford's on the ice, they outscore their opponent 17-16, the Moose at 5-on-5. And then without him, they're at like a 33% goal differential. So one of the biggest drivers on a Moose team that's struggling, to say the least. So a lot of positives there. When you look at Parker Ford, like I think it's kind of similar. I want to be careful here, but Brandon Tanev, right? Another undrafted guy from Providence College, where Tanev kind of came in and Ford doesn't have the explosiveness that Ford has. That Ford doesn't have the explosiveness that Tanev has, but that sort of gritty, competitive, undersized, in-your-face style of play, there's definitely a currency to that today's NHL. I think the biggest mistakes that teams make on July 1 are when you're overpaying for those characteristics. You're overpaying, certain players that fit the mold of Parker Ford, and then those deals don't age well. So I think if the Jets can develop that in-house, it's a huge advantage. You got Alex Iafallo, Mason Appleton that are pending UFAs. If I had to place a bet, I think Appleton stays. I don't know, but Iafallo, if he gets thrown the bag elsewhere with the cap rising. But I think it's encouraging for the Jets. They have something like that brewing down in the system. It's been a tough year for prospect development, obviously, with the Moose struggling so much. Chaz Lucius has been on and off with injuries. Now he's back. Brad Lambert, the production hasn't really been there, but there's not a lot of players from to play with that can match his speed. So, and of course, Chibrakov's had a great year, but seeing that development from Parker Ford is important because, look, the way I'm looking at it is, of course, there's two players injured in Lowry and Barron, and then there's extras like Gustafson, and there's probably going to be an addition. So Ford might be low on the depth chart, but this is a guy that, looking at next year when this team could look very different, wouldn't be surprised to see him make the opening night roster. And a lot of times with prospect development, once these guys get a taste, they want the whole bite of the national. And given what I know about Parker Ford, a very determined, scrappy guy that had to claw his way to the pro level, I think he'll take full advantage of it.
Going forward, as the Jets practice today, Morgan Barron out with an injury. One player that you have written about recently, Dylan Samberg, you called him an elite defensive D. I mean, how has he solidified the second pair this year after Brendan Dillon left in free agency? And I mean, he's an RFA this season. Salary cap is going up. I mean, what could he command as an RFA contract? I mean, I feel like we got to redo all our salary projections with these cap numbers. But just talk about Dylan Samberg and his defensive prowess.
Well, so first with Samberg, like I wrote about this in the piece, but coming to training camp, we were looking at the Jets as sort of, gosh, like Brendan Dillon's gone, right? Will it be Villy? Will it be Dylan Samberg replacing Brendan Dillon? Well, are they going to play Stanley there? Like, who knows, right? And the biggest knock for me with Samberg was, like in previous years, not only was he not as confident of a puck handler, but I always felt I was left wanting more. Like with somebody that with his size and his ability, he wasn't able to put it all together, on a consistent basis. Not to say he was bad at points, but sometimes kind of not making an impact. I got to be honest, man, like almost every game, there's large segments where I'm like, holy crap, the ice is tilted when Dylan Samberg's on the ice. Like this is a guy that is excellent at killing plays, stripping pucks, and then making that next pass to get the Jets out of the zone. That's what you want in a defenseman. And I just find that this year, his strength has really, been palpable to me. He's making plays with authority. He's closing guys off, and it's a lot more like he's comfortable in his frame. And that's something that takes time for defensemen. But if you talk to anyone on the Jets, a lot of players that I've spoken to after practices, like Dylan Samberg is lauded as an amazing athlete, and they're not surprised he's taken this step. I'm very curious about the contract negotiations. I will say I do believe he wants to be here long term, and I think that the Jets obviously has a mutual feeling. He fires his agent, gets Andy Scott, I believe, or someone from Octagon, big agency. Hopefully I didn't butcher the agency name. If so, my apologies. But gets a big time agent, and I looked at it as, okay, there's so much uncertainty with the salary cap, at least at the time. We now know. How does he navigate this, right? Because when I was looking at projections and throwing numbers out there for a Dylan Samberg under the guise of $100 million salary cap, I was saying, look, lock him up $5 to $5.5 million, 8 years, could be great value. But now I'm looking at it, and I'm sure his agency is, and if the cap's at $113 million in, 2-3 years, the percentage of the cap there, like Dylan Samberg certainly worth $6 million, I would say, on a long-term deal right now. And that number shouldn't scare people. I understand that the concept of the cap rising can be tough for maybe players and fans alike. Players in the sense of they think they're criminally underpaid when really, there's inflationary adjustments and the cap is rising. Fans seeing like, oh, I'd never give that guy $7 million. He's not a $7 million player. We need to alter our idea of these cap configurations. Percentage of the cap is important. And, listen, if I'm the Jets, I'm doing everything I can to sign him for 7 to 8 years. You asked me before about how he stabilized that second pair. You look at the way that Pionk dropped off without Samberg. And I want to be very clear. That's not a knock on Neil Pionk. It's a testament to how a guy like Samberg is able to stabilize things and allow a Neil Pionk to be, aggressive. And sometimes it looks chaotic, but to take risks defensively, to take risks offensively, because Samberg's going to be back there. He can kill a play, handle a 2-on-1 if it happens. And that allows them to play that style game where they want their D to be activated. When Pionk was without Samberg, and he's with Logan Stanley, Hayden Fleury, like that's a big drop-off in top 4 minutes. So to have Morrissey and Dylan Samberg as your top 2 lefty cogs, that's going to be massive for the Jets. And they got to lock them up, because if they can get this core at reasonable numbers here before the cap rises, Winnipeg will be in a much better spot to kind of navigate the waters of what looks like to be quite a massive increase in the cap.
Yeah, the salary cap right now, $88 million. So there's going to be a $7.5 million increase after this season. So it'll go up to $95.5 million, then an $8.5 million increase to $104 million, and then in 27-28, $103.5 million. So that's quite a jump. And
to give perspective too, like to put that into perspective, like a $5 million contract now in the $88 million salary cap equates to like $3.7 million percentage of the cap wise with $118 million salary cap. So the idea of what, a top 6 forward, top 4D is worth now is changing, and people need to be prepared for that.
And when you looked at some of the projections, Neil Pionk having a quality season for him, you wonder what his free agency, Nikolai Ehlers, do you have to change now what we think about what the Jets may do with all their, free agent? You got RFAs and UFAs. RFA, who's the other one? Velarde, the big one. Ehlers, the big one. Kyle Connor after next year. When comparing all these contracts, we're going to have to start looking at, okay, what did they sign as the percentage of the cap when they signed, rather than just looking at the raw dollars. We haven't seen a jump like this in some time, because it was basically flat since the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. And the other part of it too is, what are the Jets willing to spend? Like, I think for Canadian markets too, there's going to be a bit of, we could see an NHL where it's more like baseball, where the top markets are paying deploying a massive payroll, and the other teams in the league are kind of around the basement or middle of the pack, or won't make certain moves because of their internal budget. So that's the big key here. I think that, you talk about Nikolai Ehlers, and people were saying to me, like, he's going to make 8x8. And before I was like, I don't think so. I really don't. Now it's like, he certainly will be. There's no question in my mind, pending UFA in, coming into free agency where there's this new cap era, like, absolutely he'll get that. I mean, teams will pay that. So for the Jets, it's like, to stay competitive, can you reasonably set your internal cap at $8.5 million? And that is the Scheifele and Hellebuyck deal to be competitive. Like, that I don't know about. Like, I think that Connor should and will surpass that number, and that shouldn't bother anyone to keep them there. But it's going to be really interesting. Like, the Velarde one's the one I'm the most intrigued by, because he's got arbitration rights, I believe. I think so. And unless I'm confusing with Sandberg, but they could bridge him or go long term. I've got no inclination what way Gabe and his camp are leaning, but it kind of begs the question there, like, with a player like Gabriel, like, why would you sign long term if in 2 years the cap's going to be what it's at? So do we see more players kind of bet on themselves? It's kind of against what we've seen in hockey traditionally. You see it a lot in the NBA, you see it with other sports as well, but with the climate now, I definitely think you'll see that more from players. That is assuming that they don't like what they see on the open market, and teams aren't paying them fairly. So I'm interested to see kind of how that works out, because we know that there's struggles with the Jets with attendance. It's gotten better, but their stability is important. They've sounded the alarm bell on some things there. Gosh, and that payroll, guys, that's in US dollars, right? So the Jets are going to be paying a crazy amount of money in Canadian teams. So I'm really intrigued to see how it goes. And I just have this feeling that Neil Pionk's contract, assuming he re-signs with the Jets, will make a lot of people squirm. But percentage of the cap, folks, percentage of the cap.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Sandberg arbitration eligible, so is Velarde.
Okay.
And Sandberg's changes agency to Pete Rutilli of Wasserman.
Okay, was not Octagon.
Not just gotta clarify. Jacob, you've said it all. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Looking forward to reading your latest at Sportsnet.ca and seeing you here on WST Sunday Live this Sunday at 9 a.m. Here on YouTube and available on podcast after.
Thanks, Remo. See you guys Sunday.
Hey, there's Jacob Stoller. Read him at Sportsnet.ca, JL Stoller on X. And you can see him here, WST Sunday Live, 9 a.m. on Sundays and on podcast. All the links in the description of this video. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you turn on that notification bell to tell you when, hey, we're going live every day here at 1. Weekdays also tells YouTube we're putting out some great content and more likely to show that content to other people who could be interested. A lot of our views come from, the algorithm just popping up on your home feed. People see the thumbnail. Today it's Parker Ford celebrating his goal, and appreciate everyone who's in chat today here on YouTube, but also the podcast listeners as well. Comes out very quickly after the show around 3:30 Central Time on whatever podcast app you use. I'm a Spotify guy, but I know everyone else seems to be on Apple. Marat Atesh of The Athletic coming right up, but here is Hustler.
Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, now coast to coast, but with 3 Winnipeg locations to serve you. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop down to the location on Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or for the folks in Westmount in Brandon, and check it all out for you. And of course, you can get working 24/7, 365 on those ideas by checking out the Princess Auto website and shopping online as well. Be a minute before we're at Princess Auto Stadium, but we've got that Bomber schedule, so we'll count down to the days. And in the meantime, pop by your local Princess Auto today. Got to give a big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey. Speaking of Princess Auto Stadium, Canadian Club, of course, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Looking forward to seeing and cheersing many of you in the north end of the stadium at some point next year. But in the meantime, 12 months a year, Canadian Club is Canada's favorite original Canadian whiskey since 1848. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and look for the Canadian Club display featuring Canadian Club Classic, Canadian Club 100% Rye, and more. And when you're popping by your local beer store, keep your eyes out for Canadian Club and ginger ale, pre-mixed cocktails in cans available at vendors throughout the city. Also want to thank our friends at Wallace & Wallace for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Wallace & Wallace has been the fencing and overhead door specialists and leaders since 1946, serving both commercial and residential customers. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, Wallace & Wallace has every kind you could possibly need. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if in 2025 you might be thinking of a new overhead garage door for your home, talk to the gang at Wallace & Wallace. They have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, which means they'll have one to perfectly match your home and look great and add value to your home as well. Give Wallace & Wallace a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to pop down and arrange a time to come out and see you and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down and see them at their showroom on Lowson Crescent, just off of Kenaston.
There he is, a hustler in Costa Rica and in the pool, playing poker, giving out winners. So a lot of some great Jets talk today. We had Connor and hustler Jacob. And now let's bring him on. Marat Atesh of The Athletic. Murat, how's it going? How are you feeling today here on a Friday? Let me just bring you in. You're there. They'll be able to hear you.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm feeling good. And you know, like one of the backstage things that I get to experience with you on the show is, you know, you're doing your pitch, you're saying subscribe, you're saying like, and you're sort of explaining all the ways that things work. And I don't know if people who have never made one of these shows or experienced even like my view of it understand how much work goes into it. Remis and Hustler aren't just having success because they're good at talking sports. They're among the best at handling all of this stuff. Remo, I don't know if you get enough credit. And I hope that people who hear you say, well, okay, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, join up. I hope that they hear you and they respond, because this is truly a special show and one of the great things that Winnipeg does. So I guess I'm feeling appreciative today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm appreciative to be talking with you, because it seems like everything is going just so great in Jets land. I mean, so much talk coming into that game about the last meeting. But what a great way to get revenge on your opponent, Murat, than beating them 6-2 and having them booed out of their own building. I think it was just such a delight for Jets fans, because it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths after the way the last time they played ended.
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine You know how Jets fans feel like in a bit of a rage sometimes when it's like, oh, so-and-so hit their milestone against us again? Well, Parker Ford got called up that day, scored a goal. That's pretty good. Boston ties it earlier in the third, and then Winnipeg just breaks the game right back open. It's like every time the Bruins had a shot at something, Winnipeg took it away. For me, I do go back to that game in Winnipeg and the Trent Frederick fight that should never have been. I was a little surprised there was no physical retribution that I was aware of last night. Am I missing something? It was all on the scoreboard. It was all just showing Boston maybe one of those unwelcome truths, and that's that these Bruins are not your big brother's Boston Bruins. They are not the Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara era record-setting Bruins of years past. There are problems there, and Winnipeg exploited those problems pretty darned well last night in Boston. So, yeah, I'm sure Jets fans have a little extra kick in their step today.
Oh, for sure. First place, kicking up a big first-place matchup tomorrow against Washington. I mean, how closely have you followed Washington this year, and how are they doing that? I mean, because last year, Washington... negative goal differential, worst team like ever in the salary cap era to make the playoffs. And here they are in first place, in the league. They just signed Logan Thompson this week to an extension. It's pretty incredible what we're seeing from the Capitals, who, unlike the Penguins, have managed to extend this Alex Ovechkin window successfully. It's so funny because you're spending all week saying, oh, Crosby, get him out of there. He's on this terrible team. Washington, they've had maybe a couple like bad seasons, but they're still in the playoffs. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, I've paid a bit of attention to Washington for a lot of reasons, and I might be the only guy left that somehow wants Wayne Gretzky to have the goals record. Like, we talk to players about this sometimes, and everybody's pro Ovi. They want to have played against the guy that set the record, or they just see Ovechkin as the greatest goal scorer of his era and probably of all time realistically, and they're cheering for him. I guess I'm getting old. I'm like the only guy that seems to want Wayne Gretzky to hold that record. Not realistic. I've watched for those reasons. I've watched because the Capitals had one of the most interesting off seasons. They threw, I don't want to say dead money, but inefficient money in Darcy Kemper to get Pierre-Luc Dubois, who Jets fans know well. They know the ups and the downs of Dubois. And that's gone really, really well. I mean, a recent benching for some physicality, for caring too much. And I think Jets fans would have loved to have a Pierre-Luc Dubois that cared too much at all times during his Jets era, even though he was pretty good on the whole. So that's an interesting angle. The other one for me is Ovechkin basically resuscitated his play. Like, if you go back the last couple of years, he had become more or less a power play goal poacher. He wasn't winning his 5-on-5 shifts. He was really eroding the overall quality of play. And that's from a player that was amongst the best to do it. Earlier in his career, he was an absolute weapon at 5-on-5. It wasn't just the shot. It was all the ways he could get to the middle of the ice and control the play and be physical. And he scored all those dirty, bad angle goals and crease crashing and all that sort of stuff too. He was a genuine help. And a lot of that in the last couple of seasons faded despite the goal scoring. The interesting thing for him is that when he's been healthy this year, he's back. Like, he's actually impacting the play. So you do that, you add a first or second line caliber center who's actually playing well in Dubois. You switch to the goalie situation and they're happy with Thompson. They're happy with what they have there. There are a lot of reasons for the turnaround, and that's probably only scratching the surface of it. It's a really interesting season that the Capitals are having.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup. Is there anything in particular, Murat, that you want to gush about of the Winnipeg Jets? Is it the goaltending? Is it the play of the top line? The power play? The emergence of Dylan Samberg? The coaching? Which thing that the Jets are doing so well, seemingly everything has stood out to you here over this 5-game win streak? I mean, this is what it is. It's, they have a big win, 5-game win streak. This is the Jets are so great hour. I mean, isn't it at this time of year, right?
Yeah, okay, well, let's do that, right? This is supposed to be the time of year they fall apart.
Isn't it? Where's the second half slide?
Yeah, exactly. When's that coming? And it's fast. I wrote about that at The Athletic this week, basically, looking for signs about the second half slump and looking for Winnipeg's response and what they're doing to avoid it. It's a really fascinating topic because once you get into about this week of January, heading into February, it is almost annual. And when I spoke to Kevin Cheveldayoff about it in Denver the other week, he didn't shy away. He didn't say, oh, no, that's just whatever. Like he said, well, for whatever reasons, there are times when teams go in different directions. And he answered it in his own way. But he did acknowledge that it was a real thing that has happened in Winnipeg, and that was an impressive one. You also come off the heels of Scott Arniel sort of really almost not out of nowhere, but surprisingly carving the team's performance against Utah. And now they've won 5 in a row since that night. There's a lot of interesting things in that. But since it's Winnipeg Jets gushing hour, I'm just going to start talking. And as fast as I can, I'm going to lay out some positives. And when I run out, I run out. It's a different approach from me. None of this will be supported by anything. It's just let's go. Okay, so Connor Hrabchak, probably the best goaltender of his generation. I think that's happening in spades. Mark Scheifele, second most goals in the NHL. Kyle Connor, third. You got 2 of the top 3 goal scorers in the NHL. Josh Morrissey's having a top 10 defensive impact by any metric that you want to use. We're not even talking about him enough, but he's making another case to get Norris Trophy votes. Dylan Samberg was a question mark entering the season. Could he be a top 4 defenseman? Maybe he couldn't. Well, he's not only doing that, but he's carrying Neil Pionk to a certain extent. That top 4 is locked. It's loaded. Dylan DeMello was struggling earlier on in the season during some of the tougher spots. He's found his game. Those quiet exit passes he's making, that defensive coverage that we all appreciated him for a couple seasons ago, that's back. That top pair looks real. It looks legit. Go to that top line. Gabriel Velarde steals pucks and scores highlight reel goals and assists almost every game. It's incredible. Nikolai Ehlers is dialed in since his recovery from his injury, even to the point where Vladislav Nemestikov is producing points despite not being the ideal fit there. He's still there. He's still getting chances. Ehlers is an enormous part of that. Cole Perfetti is being hard on pucks. I demonstrated that in a series of clips at The Athletic the other day. He's winning his battles. He was a bit of a dangerous spot for the Jets last night against Boston, too. Lots created there. The third line, when healthy, is one of the best third lines in the NHL. I've been told that by people inside the market, outside the market, analytics people, eye test people. It is as good as it gets. One of the Jets' biggest strengths. The power play has been absolutely incredible all year. You look at it, eye test analytics. Analytics probably undersell it because of the way they're exploiting all their options. Davis Payne maybe should be coach of the year. Scott Arniel might get some votes. That's incredible. David Gustafsson on a point tear for a little while. I guess it's 4 in his last 5 if I've got that right. That fourth line is contributing. Parker Ford, what a brilliant story in front of his family and friends. Let's end it there. But that's just what's going on in Winnipeg right now. A lot of sweet, sweet stories.
Hey, I'm looking at the Jack Adams award. Like, does it have to be a head coach or can you give it to an assistant coach? Because I don't think it says head coach.
Oh, come on, really?
It says the NHL coach, a judge to have contributed the most to his team's success. Although if you're only coaching the power play, that's like 1/3 of the team's success? But that's a pretty big, if you're the best in history, that's pretty big.
Yeah, they're tracking to be the best that ever was. That's got to be worth something. I'm just reading NHL.com. The Jack Adams Award is an annual award presented by the NHL Broadcasters Association to the NHL coach, a judge who have contributed the most to his team's success. So, I don't know, maybe Davis Payne could get some assistant coach. We got to start the campaign for that. There's no way in a million years, but if he can, maybe we got to use our collective powers here. That power play has been, like, heading into the season, it was, can the Jets recreate last season's success? Well, that might be tough to do. They're exceeding that. And if there's one reason, it's Davis Payne's power play, the buy-in from the players, all of that. Sorry, I'm talking over you. I'm excited about it now. Let's get that campaign going.
People are fired up here after that win last night, 5-game win streak. You know, road wins. I thought in Montreal after the slow start, I was like, oh, is this another Utah game? Are we? Because you have that sense, like, are you in that second half slide? But I think people are buying in. I do have a poll up, Murat. Are the Jets legitimate season or Stanley Cup contenders? Of 181 votes, only 3% people think they're just a regular season team. Only 15% of people say playoff history worries me, and it's a tie, 41% to 41%. Close, but need one more trade, and another 41. Absolutely, they have the pieces. So talking about that one more trade in the Athletic, you've got 13 forward options for the Jets. Talking about going above and beyond. I think we've talked a lot about the names that they could be getting, but what are the Jets looking to give up? What assets do they have that would be attractive to other teams here when they look to upgrade before the deadline?
Yeah, they've got their own first-round picks in the next several drafts, right? That's there. It's also part of a conversation that Jets have internally often about, well, isn't it about time to give the scouts some capital? There was so many years there where they traded away various picks, and they're still out a second, I think, coming up, and I don't have it in front of me, but they're recovering from an era where they traded away a ton of their draft picks. They might be hesitant to do that. They have top prospects of a few different flavors, but maybe the prospect pool isn't so incredibly deep that you wouldn't miss them. I would say Elias Salomonson's untouchable from their point of view. You go a step beyond that to the Jagers, Lamberts, Chibrikovs, Colby Barlows of the world. And as much as they love those players, and as much as it's kind of antithetical to the Jets to trade players at that stage of their development, that's kind of the group of players where I would almost imagine become available in the right deal. Now you hear Chevy talk, and it's all about fit, it's all about term, it's all about things beyond just getting the shiniest asset for those purposes. So I'm not expecting all of a sudden Elias Paterson is a Winnipeg Jet, and now you've got Perfetti Lambert and a first out or something like that. But these are the types of assets that exist if they do identify a fit, ideally with contract beyond this season. There's a chance. There's a chance a player like Ville Heinola gets moved, right? Like he's been in the play me or trade me book before this season, and certainly is on the outside looking in right now. But that's not a substantial trade asset at this stage. I think the Jets would actually be better off holding on to him, even as depth for next year, and those sorts of things. So it's young players, top prospects, picks. That's the sort of thing. And the one other idea that should benefit the Jets, they've had enough injuries to erode some of their enormous cap space advantage, but they're still projected to be in a really good cap spot. They can eat more money than some other teams can, which, depending on the player, could turn a first-round pick with retention type of price into a second-round pick, but the Jets are on the hook for more of the cap hit or something to that effect. There are ways I think that the Jets can utilize. There aren't many teams as good as Winnipeg who also have their cap picture as clear as Winnipeg and as safe as Winnipeg. So that is also an asset to a certain degree of thinking.
Yeah, a lot of room to add. Cheveldayoff, we know that he's added in the past when the Jets are in position, and you've listed in the Athletic 13 forwards. That's like a whole roster, Murat, of players. You think if you want to name one or two guys, if you think they would be able to help the Jets the most, and maybe what specifically, how much they would have to give up in either case, and where they'd slot into the lineup, because it's like you look at the forwards now, everyone's stepping up. It's tough to tell someone who on this roster, no, hey, you're not going to be on the team anymore. For a team that's so close, has such good chemistry, good culture, telling someone, hey, you're sitting for a new guy. I think they seem to carefully consider fit when making these types of decisions. I know Cheveldayoff has said that before.
Yeah, and there might even be still some buyer's remorse, from Tyler Toffoli. Like, there were a lot of reasons to think Toffoli would be a good fit. He was a goal scorer. There's a lot of things there, but he wasn't fleet of foot, and that line never really took off in the playoffs. There might be a little bit of that hesitation. You asked me to talk about players. I'm going to talk about two. For me, who's emerged, if you look at the trade boards, who's available, who's on the market, if you just limit your list to that, and so I'm not going to say Sidney Crosby or something like to that effect. The number one fit that I can find where I think this player would help the Jets is Ryan O'Reilly out of Nashville. $4.5 million, no trade clause protection, so he's available if the Predators decide to move him. One of the stronger two-way resumes in the NHL. There have been times where he's been a perfect 200-foot player, which I don't say lightly. If you remember the Blues-Jets series way back in 2019, he was at the absolute height of his powers. In a second-line role at $4.5 million, he's delivering a ton of quality for that. The Predators still dramatically outchance their opposition with O'Reilly on the ice. He is still capable of being a good version of Ryan O'Reilly. Some of the percentages and bounces haven't been there. That's why some of the offense doesn't look as impressive as it once did. But this is a very, very good two-way center who can do a little bit of everything, has the Conn Smythe trophy in his resume as well. And he's not so old that he's fallen off of being able to contribute like that. So that's a player that I think would be absolutely ideal for the Jets. The closest thing to a Paul Stastny type impact that's available on the names that are being publicly discussed. I also think that extra year, next year too, $4.5 million. You're talking about the cap going up dramatically at that, and the impact that's going to have on the free agent market. The degree to which that $4.5 million is already a great deal for a team, that's worth recognizing. But to have one more year on it, the ability that it has to impact a cap picture next year as well, there's a lot to love about that contract, and probably ups his asking price if Nashville does decide to move him, or maybe even encourages them to hold on to him despite his name being out there. The other one I want to talk about is Brock Boeser out of Vancouver. Scorer, one of the highest scorers from his 2015 draft class. There was some discussion in Winnipeg that they'd be interested in him at that number 17 pick where they took Kyle Connor. They had to think that one through, and then they chose Connor correctly at 17. But if he had made it past the 23rd pick where he was taken by Vancouver in 2015, the Jets were up there at 25 with Jack Roslovic, and you better believe they would have taken Brock Boeser running away that day if they had the chance for it. I don't see him as a play driver. I don't see him as a guy you go to the UFA market with this year and say, hey, you've scored so many goals, here's $9 million forever. That's not the type of player I see, but he is a dynamic offensive force. He can take those secondary offensive minutes, and that's what's on the table. Scheifele's line gets the tough minutes. Lowry's line gets the tough minutes. That Ehlers line with Nemestikov and Perfetti, that's where work could be done if you want it to. The only downshot to that is then, well, is Perfetti off that line? He's probably outplayed Nemestikov to my eye in the last little while, Nemestikov being the more veteran player. Is Nemestikov off? Does that put Perfetti in the middle? But now you've got a slower centerman there, which is not something the Jets have wanted. I struggle to find the exact solution there. But Boeser's a player the Jets have loved in the past, and I have no reason to think they don't like him now too.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned his birthplace from Minnesota would fit right in with all the Minnesota guys. So I wonder if that would be a consideration when you're thinking of fit. Born in Burnsville, Minnesota, went to University of North Dakota. So some local connections too. I know you've got a defense article. I don't want you to spoil it. You've mentioned Mackenzie Weegar here in the past. I don't know if he's going to be moved. Is there anyone that we haven't discussed that you've got? Rasmus Ristolainen comes up all the time. I feel like we're just kind of going through the hamster wheel here when it comes to defensemen.
It is a bit tougher. It is genuinely tougher. That sweet spot of really meeting a need, having a contract that makes sense, and maybe even ideally with term left on it, that's a challenge. Mackenzie Weegar, for me, he's not going to be in this next piece because it seems clear that Calgary is going to hold on to him as a player, but he represents the perfect player type for me to really impact Winnipeg's top four on either side. Just an ideal playoff player for me in terms of the physicality and puck moving and just the amount of heart and soul of the type of player that he is. But he's not going to be there. And so you go through the rest of the list, a lot of players who are clearly rentals, some of which don't seem to make any impact at all. I'm not a big David Savard guy. That's a player the Jets have been curious about lightly in the past. That's not necessarily it for me. Rasmus Ristolainen does continue to emerge as a sensible option. He has really stabilized his career in Philadelphia. He's not taken himself out of position with as many big hit, was it Mark Stewart or Ben Sherrod? What would be the Winnipeg ultimate example? Dmitry Kulikov for a while.
Hey, that's Stanley Cup champion Dmitry Kulikov. I think he just played his thousandth game there.
Dmitry Kulikov I didn't talk to him too many times when he was here, but he was one of my favorites. And he was big into Peaky Blinders for a little while when we used to chat. So we would always talk about that, or always, a couple of times that came up kind of deal. I liked him. I think he may have been underrated in Winnipeg, and he used to fly well out of position to lay the body at the defensive blue line, and that was dangerous. And I don't think Rasmus Ristolainen does that nearly as much anymore. He's also got a couple years left on a deal that at $5.1 million, I think, is going to begin to look a lot more reasonable, provided he can deliver the quality of play. So he actually does check enough boxes where I'm not looking at that and going, absolutely not from a Winnipeg Jets perspective. I'm thinking that, well, okay, if they pick him up, maybe that helps them change the dynamic of their blue line this season when a couple of guys become free agents. And it adds a little bit of physicality, which I'm looking for if I'm Winnipeg, because, I like when Logan Stanley jumps into the play offensively, but he's a step behind defensively often enough that he's not somebody I want as an everyday playoff player against the best of the West or even in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, you mentioned salary cap, and we have to discuss, Murat, the big news today. The NHL sending a memo to teams that the cap's going up. It's going up $7.5 million after this season to $95.5. That's 25, 26, 26, 27, going up another 8.5 to 104. And after 26, 27, in 27, 28, it'll go up $9.5 million to an upper limit of 113.5, and the lower limit will be 83.9. What does this mean for all the great analysis that you're going to do? And I mean, what does it mean for the Jets, UFAs, Ehlers after this season, Kyle Connor the next year? I mean, RFA, Sandberg, Velarde, we thought they wouldn't be able to keep everyone together as the cap has been pretty flat the last couple of years, but we're going to see some big increases that could mean, have big implications for signing players, and also questions about, how Canadian teams like Winnipeg and Ottawa, smaller market teams, how they're going to handle this $113.5 million U.S. cap, which Frank Cervelli notes today is like $160 million Canadian. That's some big increases that we're seeing here.
Yeah, for me, I see that tweet, and it has to come from somewhere legitimate because Frank Cervelli's track record is really good. At the same time, it makes me want to look into revenue sharing. And the NHL salary cap is based on the league's overall hockey-related revenue. So as much as that might price some teams in Canada out of spending to a greater degree, should there not also be some mechanisms to protect these teams? And that's not an area I'm an expert in. It's an area that I want to look into a lot more, especially as CBA changes come up or get discussed in the next little while. But if the league is so healthy, the cap max is going up, but that, hamstrings some Canadian teams, that's not a healthy league. That's a problem. And so I would have to think that there would have to be mechanisms, if not already in place. And I know that there are mechanisms in place to share revenue, but to strengthen that sort of avenue if the dollar becomes a disparity. That would be a really embarrassing shoot yourself in the foot way to put Canadian markets in peril, in my opinion. It's like, okay, now we've got all this gambling revenue or what have you, and now the Canadian teams can't keep up to the American dollar. That would be a real stain. That would be a real embarrassing way to grow if you're the NHL. So I have to believe there are ways around that. In terms of how this affects the Winnipeg Jets, if moving forward, I mean, one of the things to remember is that agents and managers, they often think in cap percent as opposed to a raw dollar figure. So like, okay, well, is he getting more of a cap percentage than that player as opposed to raw dollar amounts? But sometimes they think in dollars too, and saying like, Blake Wheeler, 8.25, nobody's going to make more than that. There can be rules to that effect, and I'm not sure where the Jets stand on that these days. What is clear is that prices are going to go up. There are going to be players signed to numbers, and the sticker shock is going to be a bit mind-blowing for fans because we're rooted in the cap numbers that we've seen recently, right? Like I can remember was a $39 million cap that the NHL started with once upon a time or something to that effect. Like, this is basically, compared to when the cap came in, we're going to get to almost triple that in the next few years. So there's going to be sticker shock. It's going to be a little bit like going to the ATM and taking out $100 thinking you're going to have a wild night at the concert, and like, wow, you never spend $100 at one time, and then you get to the show and the hoodies are $80 and the t-shirts are $50 and a beer is $25, and you're like, well, that didn't go very far. I actually didn't have, right? Like, that's the sort of scenario that some GMs are going to face. It is also, though, going to leave Winnipeg, I think, with enough money to handle and make the decisions that it wants to make this year at free agency. And maybe Neil Pionk prices himself out of the Jets organization despite being a player they love. Maybe they decide, well, hey, in this new economy, that number is not actually so shocking to us, and they choose to keep players like that. Ehlers, that payday goes up. Velarde, that payday goes up, and it's going to be a series of difficult decisions for the Jets that may be even harder now. But also, Remo, I guess the last thing I'll say is I don't think Kevin Shoveldayoff is as surprised by these increases as maybe the internet world was today when the memo got released.
Yeah, I think the teams have plans. They got charts and spreadsheets to keep track of, projections, what the cap is going to be, what to pay players. I wonder if we start seeing, maybe we'd see some extensions now that it's more set in stone, or maybe not. But I think the conversations here are certainly changing now that we have a definitive number. And yes, I think it's a bit early. Have to look more into what the TV deal is going to be, how it's going to affect other teams, revenue sharing. You mentioned as well. So I agree. Hey, if the cap's going up, it means everyone's doing well, everyone's making money because you're paying the players 50% of the revenue. So the money is clearly been there. So Murat, winding down. Hey, looking forward to seeing what you have next at The Athletic. We'll make sure to check it out. Thank you so much for coming on and taking the time here to talk a little Winnipeg Jets hockey. Everything's great in Jetsland, right?
Everything's great in Jetsland. Let's enjoy it before the next inevitable who knows what, right?
Yeah, and before the next game against Utah where the coach has to say how embarrassed he was by the performance. Hey, we were talking about how are they going to respond. They responded with a 5-game winning streak here. So thanks again. Looking forward to chatting with you next week here.
Yeah, sounds good, Remo. Thanks for having me.
There he is. Marat Atesh. Follow him on X at WPG Marat and check him out. Subscribe to The Athletic. It's the week before Super Bowl week. It's Super Bowl bye week. The storylines, the Chiefs, Eagles. We're going to be getting into all that coaching changes, off-field stuff with Lee, Hacksaw, Hamilton getting away from Jets talk for a sec. But first, here is Hustler.
A big cheers from our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Hey, folks, not only is Boston Pizza your best place in town to gather with your gang for Winnipeg Jets hockey games with pick-a-player contests and chance to win great prizes and swag from Royal Sports, not only is Boston Pizza your number one spot to get together for NFL playoff games and all the big sporting events in the lounge, January is also the month where every single day is Pasta Tuesday at Boston Pizza. Enjoy until the end of the month. Great deals on all your favorite pasta dishes at your local Boston Pizza with Pasta Tuesday promos every single day, 7 days a week at your local Boston Pizza. Pop in today. And of course, if you can't make it or it's a little too cold to get outside, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door. The great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And a huge shout out to our friends at Royal Sports for 40 years plus. Family owned and operated, the number one hockey and sports superstore in town. If you play hockey or have a hockey player in the family, you probably already know that Royal Sports is your one-stop shop for full equipment, goalie gear, sticks, skates, right down to stick tape, pucks, and skate sharpening. But I will remind you, that as we look outside and the river trail is absolutely mint right now, many people not necessarily needing an expensive pair of hockey skates, just want to go out and make the most of Winnipeg winter. Royal is the best place in town for some affordable recreational skate options that won't set you back maybe the same amount of that a pair of the blades that the pros use. Get on down there. While you're at it, check out all the best selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, Bomber gear, NFL, NHL, you name it, they've got it. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Don't forget to check out all the cool stuff on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side. And give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, specials, and sale information. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Great sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk.
There's us. He'll be back next week. He's in Costa Rica at the pool, making bets and playing poker. One guy happy to bring on right now with his NFL notebook, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Lee, thanks so much for coming on. Happy, Beer Friday? Isn't that what you call it with Hustler?
Yeah, Beer Friday, Football Friday. You know, if Hustler was really dedicated, he'd do one show from the poolside down in Costa Rica. Hell, I do my podcast from wherever I am, including Scotland. So, hey, dude can do it from Costa Rica at least one day and just treat the people to something unique and different. How you doing?
Good. You always put out a couple videos of him topless in the pool, offering sports bets on the Jets that did hit. I think he was 3 for 3 with his pool picks. And he did come on for the start of the show today from his hotel room. But yes, live. We want next step live in the pool. You can bring your phone a little outside.
It's called validation. I want validation.
Oh, there he is in the chat. What's going on? Well, Hacksaw, the Super Bowl, it's finally set. The Chiefs and the Eagles. I mean, let's start with Chiefs-Bills. I mean, what an incredible game that was. Lived up to all the hype. What was the key to the Chiefs coming out on top, which they seemingly always do, Lee? We're getting sick of seeing these guys in the big game.
Okay, I'm going to just give you a different response. I'm not sick of seeing the Chiefs do this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see a team win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Never happened. They've been playing, quote, the Super Bowl format since 1967. I think there have only been 5 teams since 1967 that have won back-to-back Super Bowls. Started with Green Bay, went to Dallas, obviously New England, Pittsburgh. Nobody's ever done it 3 times. So instead of being overwhelmed with, geez, we're tired of Andy Reid and Mahomes and the Chiefs, enjoy this, because this will probably never, ever happen again. You know, the NFL, Mike, on a year-by-year basis, your teams change. Your teams change because of injuries. Your teams change because of free agency. Your teams change because of retirement. It's tough to keep teams together. So what Kansas City's been able to do, and they've retooled a couple of times during the stretch of their dynasty, and yet have stayed at a very high level. So I'm not fraught with the fact it's Kansas City again. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for NFL fans to really experience something great. How did Kansas City win? And it was a great game. Kansas City won because of the brilliance of the mad scientist head coach and the mad scientist defensive coordinator. That's the difference between Kansas City and anybody else in the NFL. What Andy Reid does, Mikey, with formations at crunch time, just shocked the other guys. And Buffalo admitted it this week. They saw things in the fourth quarter, formation-wise, they had never, ever seen before. There was a series in which Mahomes came to the line of scrimmage, and they ran a pistol package with a running back, a fullback, and a tight end all in the backfield. And they ran play fakes off the pistol, and Buffalo was a step slow responding to the play fakes, and then Mahomes would take the ball, roll right, and throw it, or take the ball and run. He ran 5 times for first downs out of weird formations. And then late in the game, I'd never seen this before, they ran what they call an old T formation with Mahomes and 3 people lined up behind him. And they ran play fakes off it, and Mahomes dashed for another first down, which burned the clock out. So That's the mad scientist that is Andy Reid. And I guarantee you, as we go to the Super Bowl, and we'll talk more about this next week on the Notebook segment, we go to the Super Bowl, they're going to spring stuff on Philadelphia that is not on video anywhere because that's who Andy Reid is. Conversely, Josh Allen was a one-man gang. Josh Allen had his hands full because Steve Spagnuolo was running blitz packages and schemes that probably were not on video that they were prepared for. And they were in what we call stunts and scrapes with their blitz guys, crisscrossing behind the defensive lineman. And they figured out how to stop the quarterback sneak because their video had shown that he always went left, he always went left, he always went left. And they stopped him, 2 or 3 times during the course of the game. So the mad scientists of those two guys really make a difference. And then Kansas City's contributors, aside from the quarterback, all made big plays. It started with Hollywood Brown, then it went to Juju Schuster-Smith. They targeted Travis Kelce one time in the first half, one time. And while Buffalo's defense had to pay attention then to Hollywood Brown and Juju Schuster-Smith and the other guys, they started throwing to Kelce in the second half, and then Kelce started to pile up yards and receptions, and they ran the clock and got first down. So it was just brilliance. And I think the difference is Kansas City's got a lot of guys who contribute aside from Mahomes. Buffalo, to me, Josh Allen has to do an awful lot of it by himself because I don't think he's got as many playmakers on his side of the offense that Mahomes has on his. That's my explanation how Kansas City won. But we're dealing with really super intelligent people, that head coach, that defensive coordinator. And to me, it's a big difference maker. And I watch the game, enjoy the game, and I chart games. I watch formations, and I say, damn, they're going to spring stuff on them that they've never seen before, and they always do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring on Super Bowl Sunday. How about the Eagles? Seems like Saquon Barkley's really elevated this offense. Ran all over Washington in the NFC Championship. Wasn't close. Can they do it again against the Chiefs?
Well, I think in the Philadelphia-Washington game, things just started to pile up on the Commanders. Item one, I was shocked. Washington had that 18-play drive to start the game. Nobody's punished Philadelphia like that and kept their defense on the field for almost 10 minutes. I'd never seen that. Not since early in the season when Philadelphia was trying to come together. Man, I was shocked at that, but they couldn't keep it up. And the other factor is, and then Philadelphia just uncorked all the diverse things that they have aside from Jalen Hurts. To me, it was too much mean green defense, too much Superman, Saquon Barkley, too much A.J. Brown, and then the turnovers complicated it. Washington totally out of character. It was not Jaden Daniels' fault. His guys fumbled 3 times, then he threw a pick. Add into that, they got really frustrated. They had 4 major penalties, 15-yard penalties during the course of the game that kept drives going or gave Philadelphia pretty good field position. So in a unique set of circumstances, Washington fell apart emotionally on the game, and then Washington just could not cope with the firepower that Philadelphia had. But Washington kept turning the football over and giving the Eagles really good field position. And I think that's all based on experience and the fact the Eagles have been there before, Super Bowl team in the past, and Washington is the first time walking down that highway. So it was a great season in Washington. Jaden Daniels is a really fun guy, but Philadelphia is a pretty bleep and complete football team. So I'll tell you what, Super Bowl Sunday, is it here yet? I can't come quick enough because I want to see the machinations of all things Andy Reid and what Sirianni's going to do. I think the game's going to be fun for NFL fans in the U.S. and NFL fans in Canada.
Yeah, rematch of a couple years ago, 2 great teams, Andy Reid against his former team. We don't have the Kelce brothers matchup, but I'm sure the media who's at Media Day will find some fun stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah, Taylor Swift, I didn't mention. I'm sure you can bet on how many times they'll show her during the game. The NFL's got a lot of criticism the last week or two about the refs in Chiefs games. Is this legitimate, and is anything, if it is, is they're looking at any changes here to the way games are officiated?
Mike, I don't know if the criticism is really valid, but the perspective of the criticism probably is. I went back and checked. In an 11-game span, Kansas City, Mahomes had 7 roughing penalties called on hits he took. 7 in an 11-game window. The other team had 1. And the question is, are the officials always with an eye on Mahomes rather than the eye on the other quarterback? Because a 7-1, that's kind of unbalanced. There was another one on pre-snap penalties. The Chiefs had an edge of 20-7 on pre-snap penalties. And the question is, are they ignoring what Kansas City's offensive linemen are doing, but they're nailing the other guy? That's kind of weird. Now, with all the criticism that was mounting over the last couple of weeks about blown calls, missed calls, and then everybody saying, well, you're pro Kansas City. We got into that AFC Championship game, and the penalties were 8-6, and it was almost even Steven. To get to your answer specifically, I do think this offseason competition committee is going to add some things for instant replay challenges. I think there will be an additional challenge given to head coach for blows to the face mask. I think there'll be a challenge awarded if he wishes to use it for helmet hits or maybe even targeting. I do think there'll be some additional things. And why not? You got the technology, use the technology to make sure the calls are all correct. Because the greatest thing you have in your game is integrity, Mike. And if you lose integrity because people think these games are somewhat rigged or the refs are biased or why the hell the refs missing these calls. Tough game to officiate. It's big, it's fast, it's furious. You got technology to help the officials and make sure this is the most important thing, all the calls are correct. So I do think, I would bet there'd be at least 3 adjustments and instant replay challenges that coaches will have in their pocket that they can reach for and say, he hit my guy in the face mask. That should be a 15-yard penalty. And the refs can't see everything and all the angles, and guys are moving so fast. So to answer, that's a great question you have. I think we're going to see some changes this offseason. Has to.
And one more, Lee, before we go. It's the offseason of coaching changes. Who's the winner and the loser of the coaching changes we've seen around the league? A number of teams hiring a new bench boss.
Let me just run through the roadmap real quick. Letter grade, I wrote about it. I did it on my TV podcast. I gave the Raiders an A letter grade. Pete Carroll brings energy, intelligence, very likable guy. Players respond to him. You know, he might be 73, but he acts like he's 33. And he's got the energy of a 53-year-old. I give them a letter grade of A. And the intangible with the Raiders, Mike, they got 10 draft picks, and they have $107 million in salary cap space. Obviously need a quarterback. Hot name. Nobody's talked about this. I heard through the grapevine. They're going to take a look at Jameis Winston. He's big, strong, young. Throws touchdowns, does throw interceptions. He's been in a lot of bad situations. Maybe that's a guy they can get, they can afford. Second name is Kirk Cousins, but he's going to have to take a pay cut because nobody's going to pay him that kind of money because he just hasn't won games along the way. Third one might be Russell Wilson, but he's got like 100,000 miles on him. So I got the Raiders at an A. I give New England an A. Vrabel will come in and change the culture. They've obviously got a lot of cap space. I think Mike Vrabel will be a magnet to change the personality of the team through roster acquisitions. And, of course, they got Mayo, the young quarterback who I like. Jacksonville, I'm going to give an A to, even though it was a strange hire to get Liam Cohen from Tampa Bay. He walks in the front door, and he's got a good quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who needs to stay healthy, but also needs a bright light guy to do X's and O's, and that's what Liam Cohen does in terms of schemes. And they got all the skill guys on offense. They were all hurt, and all their defense was destroyed by injuries last year. I guarantee you, a year from today, we won't be talking about Jacksonville giving up 390 yards per game. So I give Jacksonville an A. And obviously, Ben Johnson goes into Chicago. I think he'll fix that thing quick. And I'll be fascinated to see, as he coaches up Caleb Williams as a second-year player, how quickly Williams becomes more complete rather than running for his life. Just understand this. Ben Johnson went to Detroit and took a guy the Rams got rid of in Jared Goff and made him a 4,000-yard passer every year. So when this guy touches a quarterback, he has success. So those are all the guys I gave A's to. I gave a C to Dallas. I just don't understand Jerry Jones' method of operation. Not to deny Brian Schottenheimer's choice, because he's been an assistant coach and been an offensive coordinator and had success in Seattle. And, of course, he's Marty Schottenheimer's son, the late Chargers head coach. But there are so many good names out there. You did not interview very many of them, and you settled on Brian Schottenheimer. And The press conference, I saw the press conference. Like, of a 60-minute press conference, 41 minutes of it was Jerry Jones talking about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys and himself rather than Brian Schottenheimer. So did he hire this guy so he can just push this guy around? I don't know. They got a lot of work to do there in Dallas. They got to get healthy. So I gave them a C. And I'm going to give New Orleans a D because they haven't filled the job yet. And they were the first one that fired Dennis Allen way back. And now Mike McCarthy has backed out and Cliff Kingsbury has backed out. And maybe it's going to be Kellen Moore from Philadelphia after the Super Bowl. But I question Kellen Moore's track record because he got let go by the Cowboys. They was with the Chargers. He got let go again. Now he's in Philadelphia. So, what's his portfolio actually look like as a head coach? I have reservations about that. And New Orleans has got age issues. They got salary cap issues. I was surprised Mike McCarthy didn't wind up there, but there's a past history of him and Mickey Loomis that didn't work out. So those are the letter grades for the coaching hires around the NFL.
Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on here on a Beer Friday, talking some football. You want to let everyone know where they can find your writing, your podcast. You got Instagram Reels as well, TikTok. You're on everything, Lee.
Yeah, listen, if you like sports, check my website. I write on it every day, and I cover a ton of things. You may be an NFL fan, or maybe you like baseball or the NBA. I know you're a hockey fan. I cover all that stuff every day. It's absolutely free. Just go to the website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And my YouTube channel, we did a huge special podcast yesterday. It's just Lee Hacksaw Hamilton on YouTube. I think you'll like it. There's a long form, then we do some short clips also during the course of the week. And in all honesty, it's your fault. You guys in Winnipeg Sports Talk, turned me on how to do a podcast. Now we're doing the U.S. version of what you guys are doing. It's really kind of blowing up. So check it out. Subscribe to it. It's absolutely free. That way you'll get notifications every time we put something up there. And I still think Hustler needs to do one of these shows from poolside. Although I can't believe him drinking something, a pina colada with a little umbrella in it, but I need photo validation of that too.
Hey, it's my dream to do like a hot tub stream one time. We got boom mics, we got cameras. We got to figure out a way to make that happen too. Lee, thanks so much. It was great talking with you out there in San Diego. I appreciate all the time.
Mikey, thanks for talking. We'll chat with you next week. Little Super Bowl preview when he gets back.
Yes, definitely. I'm sure Hustler will love that. Love that. A lot of Chiefs love out there. Thank you very much. There he is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Link to his YouTube channel in the description, or search for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Here, time for right now our fans feedback segment, brought to you by Fans First. Your Fans First, your best option for buying and selling tickets in Winnipeg with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place if you have a pair of extra seats to get rid of them. I can tell you, as someone who has to move, buy or sell a pair of tickets, utilizing Fans First, so user-friendly. The customer service is great, and you're getting paid the next day right after a game. I know Fans First has been busy for the Leaf game on Monday, or not Leaf game, for the upcoming Winnipeg Jets games before the break. No doubt about that. Here, we got a poll out in the chat. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Chiefs, 64% of the 200-plus votes, 36% on the Eagles. We have people weighing in on a variety of Jets topics, talking about the Winnipeg Jets first line. Isher Boy Bruce says, every time the first line starts to struggle and the rumblings start about breaking them up, they explode. We saw that last night. Bart Oman talking about the salary cap going up. He says, if True North were losing money, would they keep investing and upgrading the building? They just spent $2 million this past offseason updating the sound. I will give True North complete credit for all the renovations they've done to Canada Life Centre since it opened. Redoing the seats, redoing the concourses, putting in new things there. Look at Vancouver Canucks. They still have the same seats in there from 30 years ago, from 1996. They don't even have cup holders in there. They've been promising new seats for years, and they still aren't in there. So full credit to True North for all the upgrades they've done on Canada Life Centre. In terms of the trade deadline, Chips McGee says Ryan O'Reilly is exactly who we need, going back to that conversation with Murat. Fans feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets by fans for fans with no fees. We're not done yet. We're going long today. We're going long. Big night of hoops. It's the Duckworth Challenge Basketball Edition tonight. The IGAC at U of M. It's U of M Bisons, U of W Westman, and I'm so pumped to be joined by, he's got his own YouTube channel, link in the description, Joey Slattery, local sports journalist. Joey's going to join us. We're talking about the Duckworth Challenge happening tonight. Joey, what's going on? Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Always a pleasure being on the show, Remis. And I love talking basketball. So anytime you're going to give me a platform to talk basketball, I'm going to take it. And this weekend is going to be a fun one with the Duckworth Challenge. It's a couple of good games because they mirror differently. The men are much stronger, but the women are fighting for those final playoff spots. So we're going to have a playoff basketball feel. And if you've ever been to a Duckworth Challenge, the gym is packed. IGAC is going to be packed. I'm sure there's a few tickets left, but it's an atmosphere unlike anything else in the city. It's the hottest rivalry when it comes to basketball in Winnipeg, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, tonight at IGAC, it's what, Investors Group Athletics Center. Got it right? Very good.
Yeah.
U of M versus U of W men and women. And I mean, these two men's teams, they're among the best in Canada. I mean, it should be a great night of basketball.
Well, it is. And the crazy thing is the Westmen have been to the last two nationals, right? And they're knocking on the door again. Sean Murat just seems to be getting better and better. This year, he's dealt with some injuries, which is kind of incredible how the Westmen have been able to hold top spot in the Prairie Division. So there's two divisions in Canada West, the Prairie Division and the BC Division. And Sean Moran dealt with some injuries. He's at the heart and soul of that team, but the resiliency they showed throughout the year so far has been incredible. And, talking to head coach Mike Rainbow, he said this is one of the toughest years the team has had in terms of just getting together as a group, even if that's just, for practices and stuff like that, because they've been dealing with injuries and other things like that, but hasn't seemed to affect them on the court. That said, Manitoba was written off, I think, by a lot of people when Simon Hildebrandt decided he was going to take his game to Division I out in Texas at High Point University. But, even myself, I had my doubts. Darren Watts has been a guy that was kind of on the up and up. He had a great year last year, got some playing time with the Winnipeg Sea Bears. You may remember he was one of the development players. He wasn't even drafted. He walked on as a CEBL or as a development player into the CEBL, and it really has increased his confidence. And he's one of the guys that stepped up along with, Kieran O'Hara and some of the guys that were always in the mix with Simon, but have really kind of taken the spotlight. But it very much is a team approach. Mason Krause is also kind of he's the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak. We have an elite point guard matchup in this game. Sean Moranin is going up against Mason Krause for the last time in a Duckworth Challenge. And I think it's going to be all out. These are games that all the players, most of these guys are from Winnipeg. They understand the gravity of this, of the Duckworth Challenge, what it means to the school, what it means to the community, what it means to alumni. And, you've got one of the best playmakers in Sean Moran, and he led all of Canada last year in assists per game. And you've got Mason Krause, who just set the program record last weekend, I believe, as the all-time leader in steals for the Bison's program. So it's going to be a fun one here for the men as they're fighting out. Winnipeg has a 1-game lead on the Bisons right now and for the division lead. So what happens this weekend, because there is a back-to-back, the Duckworth Challenge officially is tonight, but then there's a rematch tomorrow at the University of Winnipeg. And those two games could really dictate how the playoff structure will go from there.
It's amazing how this rivalry has grown, intense atmosphere. If you're a basketball fan, 33rd annual Duckworth Challenge. We got the men and the women as well fighting for a playoff spot. So it should be a fantastic evening of ball.
Yeah, the women, it's been a tough year, especially for the Westmen. They had those national runs, you might remember, just a couple of years ago and kind of had a full turnover. Alyssa Cox stepped in as the new head coach, building her program. I got a chance to watch them a lot. I do the color commentary for the Westmen, and, I've noticed that there's been some improvements. You're starting to see that kind of confidence come in with the younger players. But this is a big one here. The thing with these games, Remo, is that sometimes heroes step up out of nowhere, right? The atmosphere kind of takes over, the emotion takes over, and you find that, that ability you might not have known that you've had to take over a game. And I'm interested to see if anybody does that with the Westmen. The Bisons have a little bit more tenure with their team, a little bit more, or not cohesiveness, but they've been together longer is what I'm trying to say. And, they have a 1-game lead. They hold that final spot in the Prairie Division. So again, this one here is a playoff game. You're going to have the atmosphere, but this is 100% a playoff game because both teams are in playoff mode right now. There's 6 games left in the season, some winnable games for both teams. The toughest part of their schedules are behind them now, but this is the biggest matchup here because it's very likely going to be between these two teams to get that final spot. So Anna Maiko, if you're going to the game tonight, you're going to want to keep an eye on her, number 2 for the Bisons. She's in her second year, really stepped up her game as kind of the go-to person for the Bisons. Emerson Martin is a longtime senior who's been very well there, or played very well there as well. And the Westmen, there's a ton of young talent. Anna Kernahan's in her last year. She's been the star for the Westmen. She's been there through the whole process of the Nationals to now and is ready to pass the torch. So there's a lot of young players on the Westmen that you want to keep your eye on to see who's going to be the next one to step up for them. But it's going to be 2 great games nonetheless.
Yeah, got our eye on the U Sports basketball, but also have our eye on the basketball for the Winnipeg Seabears this summer. We've talked so much about the Bombers, how it's a big year for them with the Grey Cup being here. Well, the CEBL Championship is here in August. Free agency kicks off tomorrow. How are they positioned to build on, the first season? Last season, I don't think it went, as well as they would have expected.
Yeah, it's a big year, right? I think there's a little bit of pressure felt, from the basketball operations side of things. It's been a couple of years now with first round exits, and last year they really, piled up on the talent, re-signing Teddy Allen. That didn't go well. They had a lot of turnover last year, even aside from everything that happened with Teddy Allen. You may remember David Wankat left early to go to Germany to play, for his German team. And that's been a problem with the CEBL. It's just losing players at key times, and it's not just the Seabears. Now you add that the extra 4 games, right? So this is an extended season now. It's a 24-game season. So I'm anticipating there's going to be a lot of G Leaguers. Just the way the G League season, it kind of mirrors the CEBL season a lot better. Because I think what teams are noticing now is that it's great to have the talent, but if they're not going to stay for the full year, it really kind of throws you for a loop at the most important times. Teams that are getting to, the playoffs in the national tournament, which is happening here, national tournament, the CEBL championship weekend, and that'll be in Winnipeg this year. So when it comes to signings, I know the Seabears have had their eye on a few guys, talks with a few guys, but there's been like 3 or 4 guys in the CEBL that have signed 2-way contracts in the NBA, and a few of those guys were in talks to come with the Seabears, which is now, no longer any conversation simply because they signed with an NBA team. So the one big thing you might notice is last year they didn't sign an international player. Each team gets an international player roster spot, and it was Jelani Watson-Gale 2 years ago who was the closer for the Seabears. Last year they decided to not take in an international player. I think that's something they're going to look at to bring in again, someone who can change the game a little bit and kind of help out with the roster and give them a bit of a closer. The identity is going to be huge this year. I doubt you're going to see that star treatment like you saw last year. Teddy Allen, Byron Mullins, who was a first-round draft pick in the NBA years ago and didn't quite pan out here. I think this year they're going to look for a little bit more cohesiveness and try to make it more of a team unit as opposed to one guy's team and giving the keys to one player. But we'll see what happens, right? At the end of the day, it's whoever's available. They're going to go after the best players. This is a big year for the Seabears. They need to get past that first round of the playoffs, regardless about the championship weekend. Yes, they are in. It's guaranteed. The last 2 years, the teams that have hosted didn't play well all season and were knocked out in the first round of that championship weekend. The Seabears want to buck that trend and, bring a championship at home. And from what I've heard, Remo, this is going to be the best championship weekend the league has ever seen. And I think it's going to be a real celebration and a good warm up to the Grey Cup. I mean, it's championship season in Winnipeg. How great would it be if the Seabears and the Blue Bombers make it to the game and win a championship here at home? I think that would make one of the greatest sports stories in Winnipeg history. Hey, let's throw the Jets in there too, the way they're playing. We might even have a Stanley Cup on home ice, eh?
Hey, it's possible. Hey, minus 22 outside right now, Joey, but you got me fired up for August and the summer and the Seabears when they're starting up as well. So talk a little U Sports ball in the city, Seabears ball. Joey, thanks so much for taking time. Great to have you on the show, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to say for everybody listening, you can check out the previews on Instagram. Both stories are up, and it's also be on my YouTube channel. Both are at Joey Slattery Media. So first name, last name, media all together. You can find me YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook too, but I don't check it very often. Same with Twitter, but try your luck.
Thanks. I'll throw a link to those in the description of this video. Thanks again, Joey, for your time.
Thanks, Remo.
There he is, Joey Slattery, doing a great job on his Instagram with some reporting on the Duckworth Challenge. Men's and women's ball tonight. We're bringing back Connor Hrabchak, but first I want to let everyone know the WST night next Friday out at the Jets game. Jets, Islanders. I'm already picking out my wardrobe for all the selfies I'm going to take and show everyone that we were there having a great time. WinnipegJets.com/WST. There's 2 games left. They're both on Friday night against the Islanders. This is one of the last games before the break. Yes, the Four Nations. I had someone text me, follows the Jets, but maybe not up to the day-to-day stuff. Like, what the heck is this Four Nations thing? There's no All-Star break, and 2 weeks. I think Feb 12 it starts. It's only 4 games. It's just a round robin and a final, so they're taking some time off. And that is the last game before the break. Tuesday against Carolina at home. That should be a great game, actually. Oh man, that could be a Stanley Cup preview. And Friday against the Islanders, and then they're off for a couple weeks there. So hey, it'll be Four Nations talk, I'm sure. And one guy who tweeted out yesterday how fired up he was for the Four Nations and watched Canada's leading goal scorer there. I hate to break it to him that Mark Scheifele is not on the team. Let's bring him in, Connor Hrabchak. Who's Connor? You're getting a lot of comments on your Hrabchak strong hat today. Looking pretty good there. And that was Cole Perfetti was wearing that one before his hat trick too. So maybe, I don't know if you got a game tonight. Maybe you'll be putting up a hat trick.
But no, shout out to sorry, what?
You were muted there. Just go. You can continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll wear this to my next beer league game, and then we'll see what ends up happening with if I get a hat trick, then it's clearly just the power of the hat, right? But no, this is awesome. Hrabchak strong. It just came in the mail today. Got to give a shout out to my guy Eric Hrabchak. Gave me the heads up that these were coming out on the website. I believe this blue one is sold out. I put the link in chat earlier on for people that were curious. And I think the white one is still available and not sold out quite yet. But yeah, you got the Dale Hrabchak, the statue there with I love this new trend, Remis, of the hats with, I don't even know what you call this, but yes. I know you're a big hat guy. What do you think? I love this. Yeah.
Chris Strevler would always wear this Bombers hat, or Olvera had the gold thing. And I saw one of those at the Grey Cup. I don't have any hats. What is that called? I don't have one of that.
I don't know.
It's
awesome,
one.
Though. I like it.
I don't have one. I love it. So I do need, if I have to get a hat with a little, I like hat with a side patch. We got the Royal side patch on this.
Hrabchak strong here.
And you got the Hrabchak strong. And a lot of accessories. Got to accessorize. Russ Lowen says it's called a bead. I don't know what it's called, but we're going to talk about the biggest story in hockey, not the Winnipeg Jets being number 1 in the league, not the salary cap increasing, but we're going to talk about Utah HC name. They announced yesterday that it's not Wasatch up for voting. They changed it. Outlaws, Utah HC, or Mammoth. What are you voting for?
I'm glad they took Wasatch out, because even in our vote, in our chat, that was by far the worst. And clearly the fans in Utah agreed with us that no one voted for it, so they just took it out and replaced it with something else. I'm still here for Mammoth, and for the same reasons I said yesterday. I think there's a lot of potential with the logo, with the jerseys. If you go Utah Mammoth, I think Utah Hockey Club is now 3rd for me, though. I would like Outlaws more than I would Hockey Club. But where are you at? I'm still with Mammoth as my number 1 choice. Maybe Utah Hockey Club drops down to number 3 now with Outlaws, but I'm sticking with Mammoth.
We put it out to the chat. We put Mammoth and Outlaws overwhelmingly over Utah HC. You wonder about copyright and trademarks. I saw Connor McGahey radio play-by-play voice for the Avalanche, who we've had on this program, putting out, that Denver has got like lacrosse teams named Mammoth and Outlaws. So I don't know anything about copyright laws or trademark infringement. I do know they couldn't use Yeti because of the cooler company. You got a Yeti right there, right?
Right. No, not on me, but yesterday it was here.
Yesterday you had the Yeti on you. So I'm curious what it's going to be. I have enjoyed the Mammoth elephant logo, right? I had to ask ChatGPT for the exact definition of mammoth. There you have like some Ice Age elephant
Clearly
thing.
never. Yeah, you've never watched Ice Age. Clearly, Remo.
My kids have kind of watched it, but I've seen like the first scene, but not a lot. So a mammoth leading 45% to 43%. Shout out to everyone in chat who's weighed in on the polls. I'm doing a better job on the polls today, but we did have some hockey news. We didn't touch on that trade yesterday with the Flyers and the Flames. It was Jacob Pelletier and Andrei Kuzmenko going from Calgary to Philadelphia for Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost, and I think some picks are going to the Flyers as well. So, we've had 2 trades down last week. What do you think of that trade? I'm intrigued by what Calgary's doing. I think they added some young players, and also they still have 2 first-round picks this year and next year. They got Wolf in net. I keep getting him. I got Wolf in net, so I think they're in a good spot, better than you thought they would be.
For sure, because you look at the Jonathan Huberdeau contract, or you look at the Calgary Flames cap sheet, and you go, oh, this rebuild isn't going so well. But it actually is going quite well. And this deal was interesting because it was a lot of middle 6 forwards. It was 2 on each side, middle 6 forwards with upside being swapped. So this deal could really go in any way. Andrei Kuzmenko had a great year for the Vancouver Canucks a season or 2 ago. Since then, hasn't been that great. So Philly's kind of betting on him bouncing back alongside Matvei Michkov, who's their young up-and-coming star player. And I do really like this deal for Calgary. Getting Farabee and Frost, not only are they good middle 6 contributors right now, and maybe even on the higher end of middle 6 contributors right now, but they can develop into something even more. They're both younger players as well. So I do like this deal for Calgary. I like where their rebuild is going. And with this new arena coming soon, 2 first-round picks, a lot of cap space as well, I think we can unfortunately put away the Mackenzie Weegar and the Rasmus Anderson dreams, because I think Calgary's in actually a good spot to kind of retool on the fly here and be a team that can make the playoffs not only this year, but in the next couple of years too.
Yeah, certainly interesting what Calgary's doing. And, a lot of talk, could we see Calgary here in the first round of the playoffs? I don't think I asked you, Connor, just thoughts on the salary cap going up. Certainly going to be interesting for all the contract conversations we're going to be having here.
Yeah, I love what Jacob Stoller had to say when you asked him about it earlier in the show, about how we're going to have to reevaluate what players' contracts are, because there's going to be a lot of sticker shock, I guess, is the way to put it, when these new contracts are signed. Like Mikko Rantanen might be the highest paid player in the NHL this offseason. And that should come as no surprise to anyone, with the cap rising, $15 million over the next 3 years. You see it in the NFL, and I think this is the best comparison I can come up with. In the NFL, every single offseason, there's a quarterback that becomes the new highest paid quarterback in NFL history, right? Last season, it was Jordan Love, it was Trevor Lawrence. And are those guys the best quarterbacks in the league? Absolutely not, but it's their turn to get paid. This offseason, I'm a 49ers fan. Brock Purdy might become the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Is he the best quarterback in the league? No, but it's just his turn to get paid. What you might start seeing in the NHL is Kirill Kaprizov's coming up soon. Mikko Rantanen is coming up. Connor McDavid is coming up. Connor McDavid actually is the best player in the league, but players who are maybe in the top 10 but aren't the clear-cut number 1 player in the league are going to become the highest paid players, because by year 3 of the contract, there will already be 4 or 5 more players getting paid more than that player. It's just going to keep going one after the other. So when I saw those cap increases, the first thing I thought is the NFL and how every single year a quarterback resets the market. I think you're going to start seeing that in the NHL. And it goes back to what Jacob said. You have to kind of reevaluate how you see these contracts. You have to look at maybe more of a long-term view rather than the raw AAV in the first couple years or over the duration of the contract as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens going forward. Certainly fascinating. Big impact our off-season conversations here. I did want to get into Mark Scheifele tying Kovalchuk to be the franchise leader for Jets Thrashers in goals, but we'll get into that later. I've said what I needed to say, but I will keep harping on it that no one cares in Winnipeg. People care about the 1.0 records, and they are currently part of the inactive Arizona Coyotes. Funnily enough, the Utah HC revealed their quarter century team, and the NHL rigged it so Utah, records are whatever. You can make it what you want to be, and they decided Utah got to start fresh and Arizona would be inactive. So, of course, Utah's quarter century team is all players that are currently on the roster, as it is their first season. So we'll see what happens going forward, but I think we got to keep talking about it because I know he just tied Kovalchuk, but I think it's better accomplishment if he tied Hrabchak's goals with the Winnipeg Jets. Cool bet lines time. We got to do it quick because I'm using up all the host time here. I know people want marbles. We're going long today.
Do people want the marbles? I haven't looked at the chat. Are they waiting
people
for the
saying,
marbles?
Where's the marbles?
Yeah.
It's Friday. I want my marbles. I want my. Here's the lines. Royal Rumble. Hustler wants me to touch on the Royal Rumble. Men's Rumble. Who's the favorite here? CM Punk -135. John Cena +175. Who's Hustler's pick? He put it in there. He's usually pretty good at predicting the Rumble. Yeah. He says, love Penta as the Iron Person at +500. So the Iron Person is the person who's in the Rumble for the longest period of time. Most eliminations, Jacob Fatu. Like this stuff that you can bet on for the Royal Rumble is insane. So have some fun. When is the Royal Rumble? That's tomorrow. I like how they move these. They're called premium live events now. They're not called pay-per-views. Premium live events on Saturdays. They got some specials. I don't know. Let's go to the hockey. Let's go to non-predetermined sports. So we think Sabres +106 against Nashville, Dallas -164 at home against Vancouver, Avalanche -182 against the Blues, and Utah HC for now. We think 41% here think it's the Mammoth, 40% Outlaws. Now it's even. -227 against the Blue Jackets, who won in overtime against Vegas last night. Which game catches your eye this evening?
Yeah, the Blue Jackets Vegas overtime. I did catch that. That was an interesting finish there. But I think the Stars Canucks. The Canucks have been through so much turmoil, I should say, this season. But they are on a 3-game winning streak right now. They beat Nashville. They won the 2 games prior to that. Going into Dallas, is there something there? Are they maybe turning a corner? I doubt it. But I'm going to tune in and see either way. So I think that's the most interesting game of the night is that Canucks-Stars game. And obviously here in Winnipeg, we're rooting for the Canucks so that the Jets' lead for the Central Division can be extended that much further.
Yeah, that's certainly I guess we're cheering for Vancouver, so we'll see what happens. Although Paterson and JT Miller on the top of everyone's trade board, and so is Brock Besser. He's been on trade boards as well. Murat mentioning him as a possible fit for the Winnipeg Jets in our previous segment. But we've talked for enough time. Oh, that's not Hustler. We've talked for enough time about that. So no one wants to hear from us. They want me to just shut up and drop the marbles, and we're going to do just that.
It's Friday, another week of words gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. No day in, so that you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? You find luck to cry. You sign a new marble race. No separating best to worst. Marble race. Just time marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spam or you will suffer. Oh, let's fade. Marble race. You will mark before it's too late. Let's go!
The Green Day one. I don't know if anyone saw Green Day at Fire Aid yesterday. It was here on YouTube. I did stay up late. I was watching Red Hot Chili Peppers at 1 a.m. local time. I was about to go to bed. I was like, oh, Red Hot Chili Peppers are coming on. I got to watch this. I'm going to catch up some of the highlights. I did see Dr. Dre was there. Billie Eilish. You watched Fire Aid last night? It was streaming on just about every platform.
I did not. No, well, if you would have told me that it was streaming on every platform, I think it would have been easy to find. But no, I didn't tune in.
It was on literally everything. So I tuned in there. I've seen some highlights on X. I saw that Dave Grohl did a Nirvana reunion with Chris Novoselic and Pat Smear. So I guess it was all about the old rockers last night. Maybe there was some other as well. But it's time to drop the marbles, Connor. 269. Very nice number in the marble race tonight.
It's a lot of people, actually. Wow.
People
nice.
Tune in. I thought people were going to leave, but I think I'm just building up the anticipation more for marbles. It is Friday. Another week of work's gone by, so people are excited about the marble race. Let me see if I can get the additional. I think I'm missing like a couple. Let me just double check to make sure I didn't miss any. I got 260, so I think.
Do we have any additions, Remo, that we're going to throw in there?
Parker Ford's going in. He's going getting in. A marble.
100%.
I don't know if you got any else. Anyone?
No. I mean, I don't know. Does the chat have any good recommendations? I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Parker Ford was a good one. Yeah.
I should give Parker Ford like 10 marbles based on how many people suggested it. So he will get one. So, I mean, what a moment that was again yesterday. Looking forward to tomorrow night's Jets game there. Here, I'm going to save this. Oh, Hustler probably wanted to go in, although he might have put it in eventually.
I saw he entered through his account there. That he's in the chat. He's in the chat room.
Shout out to Hustler. He's in the pool. He's watching and chatting. Feeling the pressure with Hustler watching. Got to do as good of a job as he is doing. Let me save this. I did have a couple tracks. Hopefully they're still around that I've written down in the past. I'm going to open the marble race, and hopefully we don't have any slowdown or anything like we did last week. I've closed all my tabs. Only I've got about like 30 open today. And 3:25, this is a good time to draw the marble. People are yelling at me. They're getting mad. We haven't started it. So there we go. Friday night. Big plans for the weekend. Connor, gonna hit the outdoor rink again if it's warm.
Oh yeah. If it's warm. I mean, today's not the day, right? It was freezing out there today, but it's actually my dad's birthday tomorrow. So super excited to hang out with him, watch the Jets game, Jets Caps, to kick off February. That'll be fun. And that's basically my weekend plans. What about you?
A lot of kids' activities. That's what you do when you got kids' birthday.
Watch
Seemingly a birthday party every weekend. Seemingly a lot of birthday parties. So I think we got that covered. So here, let me pick the race. I'd like to get out to the outdoor. I went outdoor for the first time last weekend. It was good, but just not enough. Minus 40, not ideal. So. Let me put in. Okay, I think this is a good track. I have it on my list of tracks. We got 261. Actually, there was this accounting. Must have been a counting error. Big Daddy Brent is working overtime today. You know what? There was just so much excitement, so many topics that we had to get to. We had to squeeze in today. That yes, I. Just love sitting here and talking to every one of you guys. So appreciate that. And Connor, looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, 9 a.m. for WST Sunday Live, right? Big show coming up.
Big show coming out of a 1 versus 2 matchup to kick off February. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So I'm excited for Sunday. And, Jacob, who you had on earlier, he'll join me, Liz Hood, everyone who joins us Sunday. We really appreciate it. But, can't wait to see everyone there, and let's drop the marbles. Let's do it. You gotta do what Huss says. Let's drop the marbles on WST.
People are getting mad. They're getting mad. They're saying drop the marbles. Finally, here we are. I picked the race. I can only do so many things at once. So this is Champions Fire Project. The marbles have been dropped. It's 2 separate tracks. Jerry Beluta, Jet Oil, Tom. Ron P, over the boards. Bye-bye. Oh, my God, look at these guys launched up in the air. Mike B and Derek Schmidt. Bye-bye. Parker Ford, he's gone. Didn't make it. So it seems like this is a big elimination track. But we'll see who makes it to the last one standing. Everyone commenting, working overtime on. We're just having fun here. The Jets are in first place. The trade deadline's coming up. The Four Nations jersey numbers finally revealed. It's an exciting time. Oh, everyone's going off. Candace, Tristan, Gabriel Vivaldi, Ken. It's crazy out there. But there's a couple people still alive. Bozeman, number 1. Daryl Graincow. Randall's in there. They're going into this shark mouth. They're all dropping like flies here. This is crazy. Winnipeg Chaster. Ryan Kibbins, D20, Leonard S. They're going to the shark mouth. It's Winnipeg Chaster, Tedward Barron, Jeff Cabillas in there, Daryl Selly, Bozeman going into this thing. Oh, it's raining marbles. A lot of eliminations here. But it's Tedward Bear and CP comes out in first. CP is in there. Bubba Jet, Boring Sean Monahan. They're all going. What is this, like a dragon? Going through this dragon loop-de-loop. Matt Hyman out of nowhere. And Bozeman in first place. So how are they getting there? Are these shortcuts on this thing? Boring Sean Monahan says, this is the Royal Rumble of marble races. Is this it? Is this the finish? Bozeman. Okay, it looks like this is coming up here. Bozeman and CP. CP is in there. Bozeman is in there. It looks like this is it. Who's going to come out first? Could Bozeman get his first ever win? Daryl Selly is in. Tedward Bear. Jeff Bose. Lego guy. Spency 5 cents. Just someone needs to come out first. It's really anyone's game here. They're all in this marble hamster wheel waiting for someone to come out. And it's Bozeman, longtime listener. Randall. There was Michael Sofer. CP. Who's going to come out here? And it is... Oh, photo finish. Oh, wait, not done. What do they need to do? Touch the end? Bozeman. It's Bozeman. They had to go down. Bozeman with the marble win.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Bozeman, who's been going head-to-head with Hustler and Ross Ransby with his first marble win every single week. That was crazy. So they had to go on there and then fall down, and that was the winner. So Bozeman won. Dennis Mayuga, Randall Anderson, Spency 5 Centsy, big finish. Lego guy, Daryl Selly, Ken Reimer, CP was in there, Julian Labossiere, Jeff Doiron. That was a crazy finish. It was Bozeman who's in here every single week, entering from exotic locations. Incredible. Bozeman with the win. There's Hustlerama in chat writing, oh my God, Bose. So that's a big fan of Bose here. Yeah, so many got launched. That was a big one. Look, Hustler will be back in the chair. I'll have more time to select a marble here, but that was an exciting finish, even though a lot got thrown over the top rope. I see Wayne Bretsky in there, Jerry Beluta, former champion. There's Ryan, who wanted me to drop them early. Will Sutton, what's going on, Will? Kim Sawchuk, Patrolman Pete, so many regular listeners here. Andrew Haleko, who wanted more Connor yesterday. Spency in there. We got Ty Petkow, All Caps Kyle, All Caps Hustlerama, Rob Pepper, Mary Jane, Lori. There's so many listeners. I can't give them all a shout out, but you know that you want to. Royal Sports, Rain, I see in there. Judd Tom, who I ran into there. Right? Cowboy had a nice finish in the poker yesterday. Eric Jorleifson, Duck Dad from EST. I wonder if an ESTer will ever win the marble race one day. I don't believe it has happened. Hustler will be back Tuesday. My throat's getting sore. I got my bottled Kirkland water here. Oh man, but yeah, shout out to all of our guests. Shout out to the listeners. Shout out to the viewers, the podcast listeners. Shout out to you, Connor, for doing a great job this week. Shout out to the Jets for winning all their games, right, and making it fun to talk about. So, yeah, it's been a good week. We did have some great guests today. Jacob Stoller, Murat, Hacksaw, Joey Slattery, but great guests all week. This has been so much fun. Connor, thanks again for your contribution. I'm looking forward to chatting with you on Monday on what should be a great game.
Yeah, that'll be awesome coming out of that Saturday game. I'll see everyone Sunday morning on WST Sunday Live. And great job to you as well, Remo. Like Murat said, I don't think people realize how much it takes to host and do all the behind the scenes, get people in, make sure no one's muted, do all this stuff, run a marble race. So You did a great job this week. You held down the fort without Hustler. And I'm looking forward to chatting Monday. It's going to be fun.
Yes, can't wait. And maybe we'll be closer to an answer on the biggest question in hockey. What will Utah HC name be?
Right.
41% still vote Mammoth. 270. There's been so many people in chat today. We're like over 400 the whole show. It's pretty awesome to see. I feel very lucky to be able to do this every day. So thank you all for listening. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, follow us on all the social medias, subscribe to our mailing list too. The whiskey tasting coming up at the end of February, February 27. Whiskey tasting is part of the no. That's February 27, and then WST night next Friday. Week today. Still tickets available. All right, Connor. Thanks again for Connor Hrabchak. I'm Michael Remis. Oh, we got to raid someone. I usually send everyone over to Edmonton. I will just arrange that. But yeah, looking forward to a great weekend. Hopefully it's not too cold out here. So for me, Connor, Hustler, bye-bye.
Oh my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.